Welcome to the International Forum of KAIST Global Strategy Institute, GSI. I'm Ji-Young the Director of Center for Sustainable Development here at KAIST. I'm moderating the forum today. This is the 8th forum organized by GSI, which is a think tank that KAIST established 3 years ago to provide insights into global and domestic issues based on our expertise on science and technology. This forum is live streamed through YouTube and will provide simultaneous interpretation, Korean and English, in 2 different channels. Please check the description box of this video for different links for Korean and English. Today's forum, titled Renewable Energy Integration Challenges and Technology Policy Innovations, could not come at a better time as we are living in a world where nearly all countries and major corporations announcing their net zero targets, which inevitably require large-scale integration of renewable sources. These ambitious pledges came after the release of 2018 IPCC special report, which called for achieving net zero global carbon dioxide emissions around the mid-century to achieve the global warming target of 1.5 degrees. Integrating renewable energy into energy system, in particular to a significant level, consistent with the ambitious carbon neutrality targets, is causing social and academic controversies. There are optimistic techno-economic studies that support nearly 100% renewable energy based on a combination of various renewables and storage systems. However, there are also is pessimistic prudence on our increasing reliance on renewable sources in light of energy system stability and social acceptance that are now being compromised by increasing renewables penetration. Jeju Island, where today's conference is now being held, is experimenting with Korea's most rapid renewable energy integration. Under its ambitious 2030 carbon-free island plans, renewable energy now accounts for nearly 67% of installed power capacity and now more than 20% of electricity generation. However, the high reliance on renewable is causing social conflicts over siting renewables and frequent curtailment of solar power to alleviate overgeneration and power system failure risks. Unless Jeju adequately addresses this issue, the continued expansion of renewable sources seems unlikely. But we also believe innovations in technology and policy instruments can help address these challenges and thereby help achieve ambitious carbon-free island target. There will be no better place to discuss renewable energy integration than here in Jeju. For the next 5 hours, we first diagnose the current status and identify challenges of renewable energy integration with keynote speakers. We then explore in depth what kind of technology and policy innovations are possible and required to successfully integrate renewable sources into the future energy system. In the second session, we'll look into various cases where the success stories are now being written and draw more concrete and practical lessons. Here we invited eminent academic scholars and industry practitioners and also policymakers to bring out the challenges and technology policy innovations for renewable energy integration. But before we begin, we have welcome remarks by KAIST President Kwang-hyung Lee on behalf of KAIST community. Please welcome KAIST President Kwang-hyung Lee.
Welcome everyone to the 8th Global Strategy Institute International Forum at KAIST. On behalf of the KAIST community, I would like to thank the distinguished speakers and the participants for joining us today. Distinguished guests, the persistent COVID-19 pandemic is a wake-up call for the long-term sustainability of our society. We are also witnessing more frequent and severe extreme weather events worldwide. Therefore, addressing climate change has become one of the most critical priorities of the global community. The Korean government declared its intention to go carbon neutrality by 2050, with more than 130 countries announcing forms of carbon neutrality around mid-century and more than 600 companies announcing net zero emissions. These plans are a crucial step forward, but turning carbon neutrality into action would require economy-wide transformations. In particular, the global energy system should rapidly increase its resilience on zero-carbon energy sources such as renewables. KAIST sees that the large-scale integration of renewable into our energy infrastructures will pose engineering, economic, and social risks. However, we also think that when properly addressed, renewable energy integration can provide significant economic growth and energy security opportunities. We also believe that the remedy of the risk of renewable energy integration should come from technology and policy solutions and innovations. Here at KAIST, we take interdisciplinary approaches to research and education to tackle global challenges such as climate change, carbon neutrality, and renewable energy integration. In this regard, I'm delighted that we convened here at Jeju Island, one of the most innovative provinces in Korea, also well known for its 2030 carbon-free island declaration. I hope you all work together to make a sustainable, prosperous world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, President Lee, for your warm welcoming remark, and also for your support for this forum. Now, let's move on to congratulatory remarks sent by three distinguished speakers. Hee-Dong-won, the Minister of Land Infrastructure and Transport, Sang-Hyuk Kim, the co-chairperson of Presidential Commission on Carbon Neutrality and Green Growth, and Young-Hoon Oh, the Governor of Jeju Island, sent congratulatory remarks for this forum.
Good morning, everyone. I am Minister of Land Infrastructure and Transport, Won Hee-ryong. We are here to discuss innovative ways of utilizing renewable energy resources at the 8th GSI International Forum. I would like to express my sincere congratulations. I would like to thank President Lee Kwang-hyung of KAIST and Governor Oh Young-hoon of Jeju Province and all the staffers for bringing together this forum. Countries around the world are trying to achieve carbon neutrality with science, technology, economy, and legislative all-out efforts. In 2015, Paris Climate Agreement was signed, and last year, 137 countries pledged net zero. Countries are collaborating as such to overcome climate crises. The Korean government also announced carbon neutral green growth promotion strategy in October, leading net zero efforts. The ministry is also pursuing zero energy buildings and the scale up of green mobility in order to achieve net zero in the land, infrastructure, and transport areas. In particular, our focus is on using more renewable energy sources. Countries around the world are trying to cut greenhouse gas emissions. Large portion of the energy is produced using renewable energy sources. Ladies and gentlemen, with the ongoing war, Europe has seen their Russian gas supply disrupted. This winter is expected to be very difficult for Europe. Also, with worldwide inflation, oil prices as well as fossil fuel prices are very volatile. In particular, Korea is very reliant on imported energy sources, so such volatility in the global market weighs down upon us. This means that renewable energy sources, which are stable in supply, can help us turn challenges into opportunity. Also, renewable energies are price competitive meaning they can propel the growth of new industries. Global companies are participating in RE100 and opting for ESG management. As such, they are going net zero in all parts of their business areas. Countries around the world agree that net zero is necessary and they are demonstrating commitments in this area. I was once a governor of Jeju Province. Back then, to help Jeju Island respond proactively to climate change and increase its energy self-sufficiency, I launched Carbon Free Island 2030 project. And to store, exchange, trade the abundant wind and solar power in Jeju Island, I made possible demonstration of carbon neutral smart city here in Jeju. That is why it is all the more meaningful that we are discussing how to utilize smart cities to expand renewable energy sources here in Jeju Island. I hope that the demonstration of project showcased today can spread to Jeju Island, Korea, and the whole world. And I hope you and the business lie at the heart of this efforts. The government will provide active support. Once again, I would like to thank all the staffers for putting together today's forum. Thank you, everyone.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kim Sang-hyup, and I'm the co-chairperson of the Presidential Committee on Carbon Neutrality and Green Growth. Currently, I am at Sharm el-Sheikh of Egypt, where COP27 opening plenary is being held. I should have joined the forum in person, but forgive me for extending my congratulations from afar. Here at COP27, we are joined by President Zayed of the UAE. The UAE is where COP28 will be held next year. President Zayed has announced a plan to invest a whopping $100 billion in clean energy. And as you may well know, the U.S. Special Presidential Envoy for Climate, John Kerry, mentioned that the U.S. government has allocated the biggest amount of green energy infrastructure budget, signifying a bold move forward. President Biden of the U.S. will also join us here at COP27 as soon as the U.S. midterm elections results come out to announce new strategies of the U.S. I've been meeting the executive director Fatih Birol of the IEA for quite often, and he mentioned that although we're seeing increasing economic and energy security issues due to the Russia-Ukraine war, it is a great opportunity for us to move away from fossil fuel and focus on renewable energy. He also said that there's been significant amount of investment in renewable energy around the world. Korea has also been making efforts to secure a more balanced energy mix by utilizing nuclear energy and renewable energy. In particular, large companies like Samsung Electronics joined the RE100 initiative, further bringing up demand for renewable energy. Therefore, an important task for us would be to figure out how to supply enough amount of renewable energy in a more stable and reasonable manner. In this regard, I believe it is extremely meaningful that KAIST has organized a forum on renewable energy integration challenge and technology and policy innovations. I would like to extend my deepest gratitude to President Lee Kwang-hyung of KAIST, Director Son Hoon of the Global Strategy Institute, and Professor Ji-yong of the Center for Sustainable Development for organizing such a meaningful forum. Moreover, my special thanks go to Minister Won Hee-ryong, Governor Oh Young-hoon, and Chairman Koo Ja-gyun, who has been chairing the Smart Grid Association for a long time, for joining us today. Last but not least, I would like to extend my gratitude to renowned scholars from home and abroad, including Professor Mark Jacobson of Stanford University, for joining us today. Jeju Island has been playing a leading role in the field of renewable energy for the past decade. There have been meaningful achievements, but challenges still lie ahead. One of those challenges include the so-called curtailment, which is a situation where we need to cut down on renewable energy generation in case of oversupply. This requires us to build energy storage systems with higher performance. It's also important to make efforts to connect grids to those on the land. Yesterday, I also met the vice president of GM and heard that GM plans to soon adopt the V2G system, which is a system that connects vehicles to grids. While technological innovations like these are important, we also need to think back on whether we haven't been putting renewable energy on the back burner when it comes to our electricity trading system. We need to give renewable energy a must run status like fossil fuel so that they do not get wasted and get utilized as much as possible. This requires us to seek policy methods as well. Moreover, we still have a long way to go when it comes to green hydrogen, but here at COP27, we are witnessing its unlimited potential. Today, I hope you will share your wisdom, insights, and knowledge on all of these topics. And with that said, I will say goodbye for now, and I will see you back in Korea. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I am Oh Young-hoon, Governor of Jeju Special Self-Governing Province. I would like to thank all the distinguished participants of 8th GSI International Forum. Jeju Island is leading Korea's renewable energy industry, so the fact that we are holding today's forum here is all the more meaningful. Jeju's renewable energy generation is 18.3%, the highest in Korea. But at the same time, there is an issue of curtailment. To address this, we have introduced Smart City Challenge project, which is about linking renewable energy with transport sector and creating smart hub to increase renewable energy efficiency while increasing income for residents. We also pledged a plan to create an ambitious global green hydrogen hub. It is about using the green hydrogen across all sectors of society. With that, we will be creating a leading global hydrogen city. Going forward, we will endeavor to help Jeju's innovations and challenges lay the groundwork for Korea as a whole. I sincerely hope that the brilliant ideas presented today can provide a beacon of hope for Korea. Thank you.
Thank you all for warm congratulatory remarks. And also thank you, the chairperson, Kim Sang-hyuk, for sending special messages from COP27 meeting. Now we'll begin our keynote session under the topic of the current status and issues of renewable energy integration. For this session, we have three distinguished speakers with us. Professor Jacobson from Stanford, Mr. Conklin from US DOE, and also Chairman Koo from KOITA. Our first speaker is Professor Mark Jacobson. He is professor in the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering at Stanford. He is world-renowned scholar in analyzing air pollution and also global warming problems and developing large-scale clean, renewable energy solutions. In 2019, he was selected as one of the world's 100 most influential people in climate policy by Apollitical. His numerous publications have sparked an international movement and corporate commitments toward 100% clean and renewable energy. Let's welcome Professor Jacobson for this forum.
Hi, I'm Mark Jacobson. Thank you very much for inviting me to give a talk. I'm going to talk today about transitioning the world and the Republic of Korea to 100% clean renewable energy and storage for all purposes. My motivation is threefold. Air pollution causes 7 million premature deaths each year, and this includes 20% of these are children under the age of 5 years old. The estimated cost in terms of statistical cost of life and morbidity is about $30 trillion per year today from air pollution. Most of this air pollution is due to energy, about 90 to 95%. The rest is due to, like for example, biomass burning, which is causes a lot of deaths as well. And global warming is estimated to cost about $30 trillion per year by 2050. And the impacts of warming are being seen every day and every week right now. Finally, energy insecurity is a significant issue. Fossil fuels are limited resources. They will run out over time, and that will result in economic, social, and political instability. In addition, many countries rely on the imports of fossil fuels, and whenever there's a conflict or price swings or even internal labor disputes, that causes a risk of supply of energy. So that's another type of energy insecurity. Anyway, these three problems are significant and must be addressed simultaneously and immediately. So our idea and our plan has been for the last 13 years to transition the world entirely to 100% clean renewable energy and storage for everything. And that energy is basically wind, water, and solar energy, including onshore and offshore wind, solar photovoltaics on rooftops and in power plants, concentrated solar power, CSP, geothermal electricity and heat, hydroelectricity, and tidal and wave power. And so basically we would electrify all energy sectors and provide that electricity with these wind, water, solar energy sources. And we'd also use storage. For example, for transportation, we'd go to battery electric vehicles for almost all transportation, except for long distance heavy transport, such as long distance aircraft, ships, and trains and trucks. And those would be hydrogen fuel cell electric. And now hydrogen, we only propose using what's called green hydrogen. That's hydrogen produced by electrolysis, where the electricity comes from wind, water, and solar. In addition, we only propose using hydrogen for long distance transport, steel production, and also ammonia production. We do not propose using hydrogen for heating buildings, for stationary grid electricity storage, or for passenger vehicles. There may be some applications in using hydrogen in remote microgrids for combined electricity and heat, but limited uses of hydrogen, and the only method of producing hydrogen should be green hydrogen from wind, water, solar electricity. For buildings, we would transition buildings by eliminating natural gas and other combustion in buildings by going to electric heat pumps for air heating, water heating, air conditioning, even dryers for clothes dryers. We have heat pump dryers now. Now, a certain percent of buildings will be on what's called district heating, where you have centralized heaters and coolers, and heaters and chillers, and then you pipe the hot and cold water to buildings to heat and cool the buildings. And so right now, Northern European countries, about 50% of buildings are on district heating systems, but worldwide, we'd expect maybe on the order of 10 to 20%. Geothermal heat and solar heat can supply district heating systems, but also heat pumps will be useful for heating up large boilers and cooling down chillers as well. And those heat pumps would run on electricity, wind, water, solar electricity. For industry, we'd use existing high temperature processes, high temperature technologies such as electric arc furnaces, induction furnaces, resistance furnaces, dielectric heaters, electron beam heaters. Basically, we're going to electrify all energy for all purposes and provide the electricity with wind, water, and solar. Now, the wind does not always blow, the sun doesn't always shine, so we will need storage, but we need not only electricity storage, we also need heat storage, cold storage, and then hydrogen as a form of storage. For electricity, we would use concentrated solar power with storage, pumped hydro storage, existing hydroelectric dams, batteries, flywheels, compressed air storage, gravitational storage. These are all existing technologies. And right now, pumped hydro is the largest type of storage in the world. Well, aside if we consider existing hydroelectric dams, there's even more of that, which are basically big batteries. But batteries themselves are coming down in cost and are, once they reach a certain cost point, I'd estimate about $60 per kilowatt hour of storage, then there's no limit to how much storage we can add and to make a wind, water, solar system reliable. For hot and cold storage, water tanks are the most common types. You can store heat and cold in water, store cold in ice, and then store heat in underground boreholes, water pits, and aquifers. It's very low cost district heating kind of storage in borehole fields, for example. And also in building materials, we can store heat. Hydrogen, again, we'd store, when we have extra electricity, we can use that to produce hydrogen. That hydrogen can be stored for use in steel manufacturing, ammonia manufacturing, or long distance transport. I want to talk, before I talk about our worldwide plans, I want to discuss transitioning an individual home to wind, water, solar, and storage without gas. Now, I will talk briefly about my own home. I built 5.5 years ago, and so finished in 2017. It has 13.6 kilowatts of solar on the roof and has 4 Tesla wall mount batteries. These are first generation. Each one has a peak discharge rate of 3.3 kilowatts and has 2 hours of storage at that peak discharge rate. So it has approximately 6.6 kilowatt hours of storage. So you can multiply that by 4 to get the total number of batteries. The point I want to make here is that I have now 5 years of data with this home. It's all electric, there's no gas. And for heating, I use what are called ductless mini split electric heat pumps for air heating and air conditioning. And here there are no ducts, so there's not a centralized heater and then ducts that send that heat around the house. You have these units on the left in each major room of the house, and then you have 2 of these units on the right outside, which exchange air with the outside, between the outside and the inside. And they're only connected by these tubes of refrigerant. And heat pumps, they move heat around. They're actually, when it's cold inside, heat is extracted from the air outside, even at low temperatures. And conversely, when it's hot inside, cold is extracted from the air, or conversely, heat from the room is sent outside. So you're moving heat around. These heat pumps use 1/4 the energy as a natural gas heater. Similarly, a heat pump water heater, which I have here, which sits in a mechanical room, it uses 1/4 the energy as a natural gas heater, and it extracts the heat from the air of the room that it sits in. So these replace natural gas appliances. For cooking, I use an electric induction cooktop, which replaces a natural gas stove. And this induction cooktop, it heats water in half the time as gas. When you're boiling water and you touch the stove, doesn't burn your hand. It is only warm because you heat the pot, not the stove itself. The stove only gets warm due to conduction of heat from the pot back to the stove. This unit on the left, you can plug that in. It's an induction cooktop. It only costs between $30 and $70 or $80. And the reason I mention that is, at the beginning I said 7 million people die from air pollution each year. Well, 40% are from indoor burning of biomass and coal for home heating and cooking. So these induction cooktops can replace burning fuel in homes, reducing air pollution deaths significantly worldwide. All we need is an electricity source. So for communities that are off the grid, we propose building microgrids, which combine solar and batteries, and these don't require a whole lot of electricity. So, a microgrid in a town or a small city can provide electricity for many homes simultaneously, and using induction cooktops can reduce deaths enormously. After 5 years of energy use, and including, I have 2 electric cars, so no gasoline car, I generated 120% of all my home and vehicle energy use, no electric bill, no natural gas bill or gasoline bill during those 5 years. And for the extra 20% electricity that I produced each year, I was paid an average of $860 per year from my community choice aggregation, or CCA, utility that I subscribed to. So then on top of that, because I did not need natural gas in my home, I had no gas hookup fee, which I would have had to pay about $6,000 for. And I'm showing here a range for typical homes of $3,000 to $8,000 for a gas hookup fee. I avoided gas pipes. In my case, I avoided about $10,000 in gas pipes. Again, I show a range. I avoided an electric bill, gas bill, and gasoline bill. So for a typical home, a person avoids $5,000 to $23,000 up front and a $3,000 to $10,000 per year. The payback time is about 5 years with subsidies, because on top of that, there are subsidies. And without subsidies, though, it's about a 10-year payback time for this system, mostly the solar and the battery system. And but the solar itself is warranted for 25 years. So it's definitely worthwhile and everybody should do it. And another reason everybody should do it is that this is the hottest day of the year in 2020. The green is my solar output, solar production on that day. The outside temperature was 106 degrees Fahrenheit. The inside temperature I maintain at 77 degrees Fahrenheit. So I produce the green and I consume during the day that blue. And then the blue at night is from the batteries. And then the red at night is when the grid electricity kicked in. But the data shows that I consumed during that day 45 kilowatt hours, mostly for air conditioning to keep the house cool. But I produced 60 kilowatt hours. So I sent a net of 15 kilowatt hours back to the grid, helping to avoid blackouts on the grid. And then my point is, this is the hottest day of the year when California typically has blackouts. And if everybody had an efficient system in their home without natural gas, with only solar and batteries and heat pumps and etc., we would not have blackouts on the grid. This is a surefire way to eliminate blackouts by all homes becoming more energy efficient, and especially new homes. Well, can we transition the entire world to 100% clean renewable energy for all purposes? We examined 145 countries for which data were available, and these represent 99.7% of all world emissions. Well, the end use demand in these countries in 2018 was 13.1 terawatts or trillion watts. That's expected to go up to 20.4 terawatts in 2050. But if we electrify all energy and provide that electricity with wind, water, solar, our demand goes down about 56% for 5 major reasons. One is that battery electric and hydrogen fuel cell vehicles are much more efficient than internal combustion engine vehicles. So averaged over all countries and overall energy sectors, that's a 20.5% reduction of energy requirements due to the efficiency of electric and hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. Now, electrified industry reduces power demand by 4.3% compared with business as usual due to the efficiency of electrical high temperature processes or high temperature equipment. Heat pumps in buildings, by transitioning buildings to heat pumps for their heating and air conditioning, for air and water heating, we would reduce energy requirements worldwide 13.6%. And most people are not aware that about 11.3% of all energy worldwide is used to mine, transport, and refine fossil fuels and uranium. So eliminating the need for that by going to wind and solar, where the wind comes right to the turbine, the solar comes right to the panel, we can eliminate 11.3% of all energy. And then 6.6% reduction due to end-use energy efficiency improvements beyond business as usual. So that adds up to 56.4% reductions. This graph shows the same information, but graphically and on a timeline from 2020 to 2050. If we don't do anything, we go along the top line up to 20.4 terawatts of end-use power demand worldwide by 2050. But if we go to wind, water, solar, electricity, and heat for all energy purposes, we go down those 5 shades of colors, eliminating energy needs for the 5 reasons mentioned, down to the 100% WWS line of 8.9 terawatts. And then we will obtain that 8.9 terawatts by this mix of wind, water, and solar that's listed there. We would get, in the transition timeline here, shown here, is 80% by 2030 and 100% by 2050. Now, we need that transition timeline to avoid 1.5 degrees global warming. However, many people say, including me, that we really need a faster timeline, that we should transition by 2035 if possible. So this graph shows the same timeline, except that the endpoint is 2035, where we've transitioned to 100% wind, water, and solar, still 80% by 2030. In 2050, the final mix of wind, water, solar is the same as in the previous graph. But it's technically and economically possible, we believe, to transition everything by 2030. But but sometime between 2030 and 2050 for the final timeline is probably more likely, but we should really focus our policies on doing it as fast as possible. Now, the mix in 2050 for the world is shown here in the middle column, and for South Korea is shown on the right column. Worldwide, we expect from that previous graph, the worldwide mix in every country will be different, but this is the average for all countries. We'll have about 32% of our energy provided by onshore wind, 13% offshore wind, 16% rooftop PV, 30% utility PV, 2.7% concentrated solar power, less than 1% geothermal electricity, almost 5% hydroelectricity, all of which exist, by the way. This is existing plus new. And for hydro, it's all existing. And then small amounts of tidal, wave and geothermal and solar heat. South Korea, not too much onshore wind due to limited space, lots of offshore wind, lots of rooftop solars. There'll be utility solar as well, some CSP. There's very little hydro, and we'll have a tiny amount of tidal power and a little bit of geothermal and solar heat. But how much land would this take up? Well, worldwide, there's no new land is needed for offshore wind or tidal or wave power. Rooftop photovoltaics do not take up new land. We're not adding any new hydropower. This is all existing. So, and geothermal additions are pretty small. So the new land, the primary new land is utility photovoltaics plus concentrated solar for what we call spacing, footprint. That's footprint on the ground. Excuse me. And onshore wind is spacing in between wind turbines. And that spacing can be used for multiple purposes, namely for rangeland, farmland, or even putting solar. Anyway, I'm running out of time, so I'm going to go pretty fast here. 5.53% of the world's land for the world to transition. South Korea, about 4.6%. However, that's mostly utility PV and CSP. The PV, a lot of it actually can go offshore. So if that's too much land, then we move a lot of that offshore and we can reduce the land requirements significantly. We find that we can keep the grid stable with 100% wind, water, solar, plus storage, plus demand response. That's shown here. We keep the grid stable every 30 seconds for 3 years in all 24 world regions that we combine the 145 countries into. And what's the cost of energy? Well, in worldwide, the capital cost of transitioning is $62 trillion. That's the cost of a Green New Deal worldwide. South Korea, it's about $1.8 trillion. For China, it's about $13 trillion. But the payback time is 5.5 years worldwide to transition to 100% renewables. Let's see how that works. Business as usual, fuel cost, energy cost is like $17.8 trillion per year in 2050 with business as usual. But there's another $33.6 trillion per year of health costs, $32 trillion per year of climate costs. So $83 trillion per year is the total social cost of a fossil fuel system in 2050. We go to wind, water, solar, that goes down to $6.6 trillion per year. That's a 63% reduction in the energy costs. And because there's no health or climate costs, that's a 92% reduction in the social costs due to wind, water, solar. So the capital cost is $62 trillion worldwide. The difference, the cost savings each year is 17.8 minus $6.6 trillion per year. So that's about $11 trillion per year. $62 trillion total capital cost divided by $11 trillion per year savings is on the order of 5.5 years payback time for a worldwide Green New Deal. And for Korea, it's similar. South Korea, it's similar. We have a 41% reduction of energy costs and 82% reduction in social costs due to transition. I'm just going to conclude. I'm going to actually jump to the conclusions. I'm going to skip all the policy parts I wanted to talk about. But so in terms of jobs worldwide, we'd create 28 million more jobs than lost. And these are long-term full-time jobs. In South Korea, it's about 1.2 million more long-term full-time jobs than lost. We'd require worldwide only about 0.53% of the world's land for footprint and spacing. We'd avoid 7 million air pollution deaths per year, including about 9,000 per year in South Korea. We would slow and reverse global warming. We think we can keep the grid stable throughout the world with 100% wind, water, solar. The absolute energy costs worldwide are 63% lower than with fossil fuels. The energy, health, and climate costs together are 92% less. Finally, if you're interested in more information, here's websites for a book on 100% wind, water, solar. All the roadmaps we've developed for countries, states, cities, and towns are at this second site. There's an online course. There are infographic maps that can help simplify the statistics, and also have more information on Twitter. Thank you very much for your attention, and I hope together we can help solve this worldwide problem as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Jacobson, for your insightful presentation. It was fascinating to hear transitioning the world to 100% clean and renewable energy and storage is technically possible, and also it surprised me to hear the transition is feasible even when considering economic and social costs. Our second keynote presenter is Mr. Conklin. Mr. Russ Conklin is a Senior International Relations Specialist in the Office of Multilateral Climate and Clean Energy Engagement in the U.S. Department of Energy, Office of International Affairs. Mr. Conklin is also Vice Chair for the International Smart Grid Action Network, ISGAN, which is a clean energy ministerial initiative and IEA technology collaboration program to accelerate the development of smarter, cleaner electricity grids around the world. He is connecting from Washington, D.C. now. Please welcome Mr. Conklin with a round of applause.
Hello, everybody. I am going to pull my presentation up on screen. Just give me one quick moment. All right. So as I said, I'm Russ Conklin. I'm a Senior International Relations Specialist at the U.S. Department of Energy, and I'm very glad to be here today to speak with you. I'm going to talk a little bit about the power sector decarbonization and our grids in particular, and some international cooperation on grids, and as well as, if we have some time, some example findings. Before I get started, I do need to just do a small disclaimer. In my presentation, I'm going to cover a wide variety of programs and findings representing a diverse array of programs, of projects, of initiatives, organizations, and forums. I personally made the selections about what to highlight here. And so while my presentation delivers information and findings from other groups, I know that I may not get what they have pulled together perfectly right. So my remarks should not be considered as an endorsement by any of the organizations I mentioned, including the U.S. Department of Energy. But I'll do my best to deliver their findings honestly and truthfully. So with that out of the way, a little bit of fun personal history. 12 years ago, this very week, I was actually on Jeju Island for Korea Smart Grid Week. This included the opening of the Jeju Smart Grid Testbed Information Center and the Total Operations Center. I had a wonderful, wonderful time at Jeju at the conference, the site visits, and amidst all the natural beauty of the island. So I am being perfectly honest when I say I wish I was with you, all of you there in person for the conference today. So a brief outline for the rest of my talk. I'm going to start with a wee bit of context. Then I'm going to highlight 3 international work streams on grid modernization, systems integration, and power system decarbonization, filling that, and then I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to talk about example findings from across the clean energy ministerial community. So first, some context. Sometimes there seems to be a debate about whether the future is going to be dominated by large-scale generation and high-voltage transmission grids, alternatively by a highly distributed, complex system heavy on microgrids and distributed resources. My colleagues in DOE's Office of Electricity wanted me to emphasize that they consider this to be really a false binary, and that they and the United States are planning for both. They view transmission systems and distribution systems, the two ends of the scale, as no longer being two separate and distinct entities, but being parts of one electricity delivery system, a delivery system that we're going to need to achieve those very high shares of renewables that are the focus of this conference and even the earlier speakers. Now, a decade ago, we made a remarkable set of investments in our grid through the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act following the financial crisis. That allowed us to completely instrument our system with AMI, advanced metering infrastructure, synchro phasers, and so on. The same types of things that the Jeju Smart Grid testbed 12 years ago was looking at as well. We are now at this point interconnecting a wide variety of resources located across the system at the grid edge, including the edge between transmission and distribution. And really what we are looking to create are power systems, grids that can handle any source at the grid edge and any demand at the grid edge, whether that edge is in a person's home or on the bulk power system. And really the objective at this point is to move beyond just interconnecting these sources to seamless integration of these resources to maximize the volume of what each resource can contribute, structurally, operationally, contextually in relation to other resources. So we're going to be moving our understanding of reliability, what system reliability is, beyond earlier concepts, are the lights just on, to notions of how we let the distribution system, the electricity delivery system, fully access all the capabilities of all the resources we have on both the supply side and the demand side. In this context, a microgrid, as you see it kind of on the right side of the slide, is more than just a source of local resiliency or renewables integration. It is now potentially a component of a much larger system. So to achieve this, we need a lot of operational flexibility in our power systems. And so that is to hit all of our major climate and clean energy goals, including the goals of the Biden-Harris administration. We're looking at really the planning that we need to be doing, the research we need to be doing, the innovation we need to be doing to get that operational flexibility that we need. This goes beyond just an engineering or technology problem. This is a social science challenge as well, thinking about behavior, institutional dynamics, and other elements. We heard already in the very beginning of this conference today, talking about challenges of siting, talking about challenges of curtailment, talking about challenges of integration. So this gets into other aspects of not just the technology, but the institutional decision-making, the planning and the analysis. How do you create the markets for these technologies to operate in? How do you integrate system operations seamlessly? It also means ensuring that the clean energy transition is just, inclusive, and equitable, and leaves no community behind. That's why I'm really pleased to hear our previous keynote talk about all the jobs that are going to be created through the clean energy transition. That is very, very important. And that central mindset of a just, inclusive, and equitable transition actually drives something that we're in the United States that the Biden-Harris administration is really pushing. And that's the Justice 40 initiative, where for the first time, the US government has a goal that 40% of the overall benefits of certain federal investments, including for climate, clean energy, energy efficiency, will flow to disadvantaged communities that are marginalized, underserved, and overburdened by pollution. So my colleagues at the Office of Electricity actually, before I get into any other details about the international collaboration, really wanted me to share an initiative that they're working on called Energy Storage for Social Equity. This initiative is designed to empower urban, rural, and tribal disadvantaged communities to consider energy storage technologies and applications as a viable path forward towards community prosperity, well-being, and resilience. The primary goal is to support these disadvantaged communities affected by unreliable and expensive energy systems. So these are some of the activities we're doing to try to achieve that vision of a predominantly renewables grid, to achieve that vision of having a grid that is flexible and resilient and reliable to take any source of clean energy we put out the grid edge and any source of energy demand and operate seamlessly. So with that kind of context for some of these challenges here, I'm going to talk a little bit about 3 collaborative platforms that we have, international collaborative platforms, but these are, to be certain, are not the only ones. I'll start with the one that is maybe nearest and dearest to my heart, just because I helped create it back in 2010, the International Smart Grid Action Network. ISGAN, as we call it, is both an initiative of the Clean Energy Ministerial, which is a process by which advanced economies, major emerging economies come together to collaborate on clean energy policy frameworks and deployment aspects. It also is an IEA, International Energy Agency Technology Collaboration Program, again, another collaborative platform. And ISGAN provides an international platform and expert community dedicated to the development and exchange of further expertise and competencies on smarter, cleaner, and more flexible electricity networks, as in smart grids. ISGAN is an important channel for communicating the knowledge that we're learning about smart grids around the world. So by the numbers, 3 founders of ISGAN, Italy, Korea, and the United States, helped create it back in 2010, before the first Clean Energy Ministerial. It's got 1 chair, our chair is from Italy right now, up to 4 vice chairs. I am currently one of the vice chairs. A colleague from India is another. 2 co-secretariats, the Austrian Institute of Technology and the Korea Smart Grid Institute. And very recently, we welcomed the Korea Power Exchange, working with the Korea Smart Grid Institute as part of our co-secretariat there. 25 plus contracting parties, official signatories, participants across 5 continents. You'll see many of the major major advanced and emerging economies in that group there. 6 standing working groups focused on things like cost-benefit analysis and toolkits for making the case for smarter, cleaner, more flexible grids. A Smart Grid International Research Facility network that brings together testing facilities and research facilities to cooperate on advanced testing methods, inverter test protocols, things of that nature. I'm very happy to say that Carrie in Korea is part of that group. A group that's looking at institutional dynamics for the smart grid transitions. Another group that's looking at how markets for flexibility can be created. And all of this is pulled into this larger, what we call a communications working group, but it's really about structured knowledge exchange. How do we help each other, learn from each other, and do good work on smart grids and advance our goals and objectives? It also has the annual ISGAN Award of Excellence process, which the Korea Smart Grid Institute coordinates. This recognizes excellence in smart grid projects around the world. We've had a number of projects from Korea do very well in this annual contest, and have been able to share the lessons they've learned, the great findings that you've had in your projects there with folks around the world. The next round of the Award of Excellence will probably be announced next month, and will likely be focused on AI and smart grids, machine learning, things of that nature. So stay tuned for that. And then there are numerous national experts and partner organizations that form part of what we call the ISGAN community, the ISGAN family. And the result of this are a number of products that help everyone learn about the value, the importance, the mechanisms, the policies, the programs, the activities, the technologies, the innovations for smart grids through casebooks, policy and technology briefs, conference presentations, discussion papers, structured knowledge exchange events where we really roll up our sleeves and really get down to the nitty-gritty of what are the lessons that practitioners need to understand to do the more and better work. Technical papers, trainings, and workshops. ISGAN just gathered a couple of weeks ago in Australia at the Integration of Renewable and Distributed Energy Resources conference hosted by CSIRO. We go to other major conferences and participate there. So we are a partner in a number of activities. So I could talk about ISGAN for a while, but I'm going to run out of time. So I'm going to skip to the next initiative, which is the 21st Century Power Partnership. It's also a clean energy ministerial initiative, but whereas ISGAN looks kind of from the grid out, 21CPP looks from like power system transformation writ large in. It looks at the big picture policy and regulatory frameworks that are crucial to modernizing power systems and decarbonizing them. It augments national reform efforts, with excellence deployed through a real range of knowledge sharing, technical assistance, and research activities. This includes thought leadership, reports, in-country technical assistance are often part of larger development assistance efforts especially for emerging economies. Typically focusing on coordinated power system planning and operations. We do this, 21CPP sometimes does this in partnership with ISGAN. I say we, because I work with both organizations, but 21CPP and ISGAN often do this together and with great success. And then other information capacity building fellowship programs and so on. This next year, it's going to be developing, I'm going down to the third bullet there, working with 5 countries to develop action plans on power system decarbonization that will have their initial release at next year's Clean Energy Ministerial in July in India. Then the third program is the newest kid on the block, and that is the Global Power System Transformation Consortium. Now, GPST, as we call it, is driven by a set of founding system operators, and it includes a diverse membership of system operators, usually at the transmissions level, research organizations, and others. It's really focused on what support do power system operators need to make the choices, to make the investment, to make the changes they need to get their systems to very, very high shares of renewables and very, very low shares of emissions, heading towards net zero as quickly as possible. It's got 5 key research pillars, and I'm going to come back to those in just a moment. Today, GPST is formally partnered with 13 system operators across 12 countries. That number may be low because I have heard that KEPCO and KEPRI have joined, are joining, so adding Korea to the GPST family. It's also working with a number of system operators in developing and emerging economies to help them make the choices, make the investments so they can make their own clean energy transitions. So the 5 key research areas are system operator research and peer learning, system operator technical assistance, workforce development, localized technology adoption support, and open data and tools. And each of these is led by a different organization, with NREL, the National Renewable Energy Lab of the United States, serving as the interim secretariat. So GPST is also working on a host of projects individually and in partnership with other organizations. So I've put on the presentation the links for all of these at the bottom, and would be willing to make sure everyone has the links for ISGAN, 21CPP, and GPST after my presentation today. So these 3 operate in a much richer ecosystem of multilateral collaboration on renewables integration, system integration, renewables deployment, energy efficiency, power system decarbonization, and so forth. I mean, the initiatives you see on the screen are just a small slice of the many, many, many that are out there. So we do have to coordinate among ourselves, and we do have to make sure that each one is asking slightly different research questions and answering slightly different questions for our policymakers, our decision makers, our system operators, and others. But we do come together sometimes, like many did this past September in Pittsburgh in the United States, at the Global Clean Energy Action Forum hosted by the US Department of Energy. Your Vice Minister for the Ministry of Trade, Industry, and Energy attended that event. So now I'm gonna, with my remaining minutes, and I think I have only about a minute left, I am gonna highlight some example findings from across the clean energy ministerial community. So these are drawn from a deliverable that was delivered at the Global Clean Energy Action Forum back in September. These bring together findings from all over the clean energy ministerial initiatives and work streams. ISGAN, 21st Century Power Partnership. Even though GPST is not part of the Clean Energy Ministerial, GPST, we have an initiative on nuclear renewables integration, the Nice Future Initiative, from them, from our energy efficiency initiative, SEED, and others. And really what we were looking for was to take the lessons learned from each of these initiatives and synthesize them into recommendations for consideration by policymakers. These cut across planning, these cut across building, and cut across operating the power systems of the future, the decarbonized power systems of the future, I should say. So I don't think I'm going to have time to go through all of these individual slides. I can share them afterwards, and the final report is available, and the link is there. But we are talking about how do we bring together the best tools, the best knowledge, the best technologies, the best policies into seamless integrated systems. The fact that we need better models, the fact that we need to integrate different levels of planning across the power system spectrum, the fact that we need to increase grid investments at an unprecedented rate, which came across with the last speaker, the fact that we need to move rapidly to digitalize smart grid power systems, that we need to ensure interoperability to integrate different technologies. And here again, I'll mention ISGAN's Smart Grid International Research Facility Network, which looks at advanced testing for interoperability. And that how we need to assure integration of the flexible resource, including all of those grid edge assets that are going to make a flexible, resilient, reliable power system possible and allow us to get to net zero power systems as quickly as we possibly can. So with that, I'm going to say thank you. I could have talked all day about the great things DOE is doing, the great things that we're doing through all of these initiatives and more. What I want to do to close this out is invite you to get engaged. You can get engaged in ISGAN through the Korea Smart Grid Institute and through KPX. You can get engaged in GPST, I think through KEPCO and KEPRI. You can get engaged with 21CPP through me, through others. Get engaged. We're asking the same questions. We're seeking the same answers. And let's do this together and really accelerate the transition that we all want to see. With that, I'll say stay tuned for the announcement of the next ISGAN award. It's going to come up within the next few weeks. And thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let's give him big hands. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Conklin, for sharing your insights into renewable energy integration and also for emphasizing the importance of clean flexibility resources, including grid edge assets, and also emphasizing just an inclusive transition for decarbonization of the energy system. These perspectives are very helpful as they are based on your invaluable international cooperation experiences on global electricity market and key technological opportunities. Okay, and our last but not the least keynote speaker is Chairman and CEO Jagyun Koo. Jagyun Koo is the chairman of Korea Industrial Technology Association, KOITA, and also the chairman and CEO of LS Electric. After getting PhD in business administration at the University of Texas at Austin, Chairman Koo started his professional career in academia And in 2005, he moved to the industry where he now is serving as the chairman of KOITA, leading Korean industry's joint efforts for carbon neutrality. Chairman Koo, the floor is now yours.
Good morning, everyone. I am Koo Ja-gyun, chairman of KOITA. Recently, climate change has led to a surge in natural disasters, and geopolitical shifts have resulted in global energy crises. This makes today's conference all the more meaningful, and I am honored to be a part of it. In particular, it is meaningful that we will focus on renewable energies, which is at the center of this topic. Korea is world's 10th largest economy, so we know we could contribute greatly to global greenhouse gas emissions reductions, and we have been engaging in multiple efforts to do our part. In particular, KOICA is an organization of 77,000 R&D organizations, and we help to address the problems befalling the industry by being at the center of the discussions. Especially with regards to carbon neutrality and in the uptake and scale-up of renewable energies, the Korean businesses and the government has made many endeavors, and let me walk you through such efforts today. My presentation will be in the following order: climate change and carbon neutrality, renewable energy trends, issues in renewable energy integration, and KOITA's efforts for carbon neutrality. Well, the carbon energies that began in the first industrial revolution era has caused numerous side effects. Currently, humanity is relying on fossil fuels for 84% of its energies, leading to 1.2 degrees Celsius increase in global temperatures, resulting in natural disasters caused by climate change. That is why, to contain the temperature rise to 1.5 degrees, the whole world is working toward net zero and low carbon emissions. As such, we need to refrain from using fossil fuel and turn to renewable energies. Businesses are doing their part as an important global stakeholder, and now they're introducing ESG management practices. RE100, or a campaign to generate 100% of the electricity using renewable energy, is rapidly scaling up. Carbon neutrality is the problem of our humanity. A lot of countries are taking steps to this end. Out of 198 UNFCCC countries, 128 have either declared or advocated carbon neutrality. In particular, US, UK, Japan, EU, and Korea announced their 2030 NDCs aimed at reducing carbon emissions. In August of 2021, Korea announced our 2050 net zero scenario, and the Yoon administration, which took office this year, announced a new policy focused on energy mix. Once the National Basic Plan for Carbon Neutrality comes out in 2023, Korea's net zero efforts will pick up pace even more. Perhaps the most visible campaign to achieve net zero is RE100. This initiative began in 2014. Already, 367 global companies pledged participation, and Korea has the fourth largest membership base with 21 members. And the participants are likely to increase going further. The Korean government also introduced KRE100 to help Korean businesses. KRE100 includes RECs, as well as the mechanism that allows business to pay extra money to get certificate for using renewable energies, or the so-called green premium. And already 195 companies are participating, and the number is increasing. And if we are to achieve NDC or net zero, we need to move away from fossil fuels immediately. We need to reduce our usage of coals, fossil fuels, and natural gases. So solar energy, wind energy, and other renewable energy sources should be our alternatives. With the heightened sense of crisis due to climate change, we are moving away from fossil fuels to more accessible and affordable solar energy and wind energy. Industry-wise, with consumers' consumption pattern changing, this trend is even visible in suppliers as well. As the demand to use renewable energies are increasing. Also, with Russian-Ukraine war disrupting energy supplies, more countries are aiming to secure more renewable energies to protect energy security. Against this background, countries are accelerating the uptake of renewable energies and are promoting renewable energy industry. In the case of EU, under the RE-Power EU initiative, they have increased their 2030 target for solar energy installation by 43%. As for China, with huge domestic demand, they are leading the global renewable energy market. As you all know, China in 2022 took up 93% of new solar PV module installations and 78% of polysilicon production. The US hopes to increase its offshore wind installation to 30 gigawatts by 2030. They are providing tax incentives and streamlining approval process. Korea, in August of this year, published the 10th Electricity Supply and Demand Basic Plan draft, which states its plan to increase renewable capacity to 45% of total power installation capacity, or 107 gigawatt by 2036. But with more uptake of renewable energy, there could be issues with grid integration, which is a barrier to be overcome. By nature, renewable energies are volatile and they are unpredictable. Also, while there are surges in renewable energies, there is only so much that grid can take on. So political and technological supports are critical to address these issues. First, let me go over volatility and unpredictability. When renewable energy output increases, there could be reverse power flow and voltage rises. And since the real-time output fluctuations happen, it is difficult to maintain rated frequency. Also, with renewable energy generation increase, during daytime, the net load decreases significantly, causing the so-called duck curve, which causes instability of the power network. To address these issues, an integrated renewable energy management system and ESS, or the more flexible resources, are gaining importance. And also, there is an issue of acceptance of renewable energy in the power system. Currently, Korea power system can only accept renewable energy of 121 gigawatt, which is significantly lower than 677 gigawatts needed to achieve the 2050 carbon neutral scheme, meaning we need to expand the capacity by more than fivefold. Also, if large-scale renewable energies are connected to the existing power grid, serious setbacks could occur. That is why initiatives such as Seohean DC Grid or the e-highways for exclusive use of renewable energy and ESS-linked dispatchable hub stations are emerging as alternatives. Of course, there are some limitations, but we believe that Korea's advanced IT and power technology can help address these issues and create new energy business opportunities. Korea has the world's best IT infra and battery technology, along with the emerging AI and data processing technologies. So we are full of potential. Based on that, we will utilize VPP, P2P, power transaction, and other new business opportunities going forward. As mentioned earlier, Korea indeed faces a lot of barriers to scale up renewable energies. And individual business efforts will not be enough to overcome them. So we at KOITA are making joint efforts with various companies to overcome these shortfalls by leveraging technologies. In 2021 March, we set up Korea Industrial R&D Forum, where 50 leading companies in carbon neutrality and renewable energies discuss technical barriers. Based on the opinions shared in the meeting, we come up with policy suggestions and deliver them to the government. Also, we focus on digital transformation aspect of carbon neutrality and energy transition. In March 2021, we launched the Korea Digital Transformation Initiative, which brought together 230 companies who discussed how their digital transformation in their businesses can reduce energy consumption. In particular, in carbon reduction and energy transition, technological development must be at its core. With this in mind, in July 2022, we launched a K-Tech Forum, which brought together experts from industry, academia, researchers, and the government, who discussed technological development for emissions reductions and building net zero ecosystems. There could be different ideas and disagreements, but to reduce emissions, we need to scale up renewables. And to this end, we need aggressive investment in R&D, and we need policy and legislative support as well. In particular, we need to come up with solutions that fits Korea's reality as we integrate renewables into the grid. Of course, this is a challenging and risky task, but if we join hands with companies and the researchers, we can make this work. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Chairman Koo. This was really a thoughtful overview of what Korean government and industry are doing to achieve their ambitious carbon mitigation goals and what challenges they are facing in terms of renewable energy integration. It also was very encouraging to see that Chairman Koo and the industry perceive these challenges as business opportunities rather than financial risks. Because most of these keynote speakers sent pre-recorded videos, we are not going to have Q&A session right now. And now this marks the end of the keynote session. I'd like to express sincere gratitude to all of our 3 keynote speakers. This wraps up the first half of our forum, and with the promises and challenges identified in the keynote session, we'll continue with in-depth discussion in the second half in the afternoon. Our afternoon session will resume at 1 p.m. Korean time. Please stay tuned. Thank you. Welcome back to the 8th GSI International Forum under the theme of Renewable Energy Integration Challenges and Technology and Policy Innovations. We now have 2 sessions in the afternoon. Session 1 will explore in depth what kind of technology and policy innovations are possible and required to successfully integrate renewable energy into the future energy system. And the second, session 2 will look into a couple of cases where the success stories are now being already written and draw more concrete and practical implications. I'll be moderating the first session. The first session will be carried out under the topic of technology and policy innovations in renewable energy integration. We have presentations by three distinguished speakers: Professor William Chu from Stanford University, Professor Ki-Bum Park at KAIST, and Dr. Jung-Nak Son, the former managing director of MOTI. I think we have a perfect mix to discuss technology and policy innovations in renewable energy integration here now in Jeju. So after these presentations, we will have a follow-up panelist discussion session. Let me first introduce our first presenter, Professor William Chu, Associate Professor in the Department of Material Science and Engineering at Stanford University. He also is a Senior Fellow of Stanford Precourt Institute for Energy and also Faculty Co-Director of University-wide Storage X initiative. Professor Chu is serving as an associate editor in major academic journals like ACS Nano, and he received numerous scholarly awards, including NSF Career Award. He's connecting online from Palo Alto, California. Professor Chu?
Good afternoon from San Francisco in the USA. My name is Will Chu. I'm a professor at Stanford University. It's my great pleasure to speak to you about energy storage at Stanford. I'm going to focus my talk today on three things: science, speed, and scale. The importance of energy storage for decarbonizing the electrical grids and transportation is well underway. And today I'm going to showcase the innovation ecosystem here at Stanford and Silicon Valley. So let me begin with a quick take-home message on our philosophies. The most important one of our philosophies is that the interface between industry, startups, national labs, and academia is very diffuse, and this underpins Silicon Valley's success across many fields such as microelectronics, IT, healthcare, and of course now, the energy transition. A second important take-home message is that system-level thinking is needed as we optimize and innovate this extremely complex system for the energy transition and coordinating multiple activities in R&D, integrating science and technology. And then finally, I will emphasize that fundamental scientific understanding is very much necessary in developing the next generation energy storage technologies and other technologies for the energy transition. Let me tell you a little bit about the diffuse interface between academia, industry. Stanford is a very unique place because it combines 5 elements in the same location. We have a world-class research university. We have a US Department of Energy National Lab, SLAC. We have a 15-year-old energy institute, the Precourt Institute. And of course, we have Silicon Valley. And most recently, Stanford launched a $1.7 billion new school of sustainability, which the sole focus is on energy, environment, and sustainability. And co-locating these 5 elements in one place has really been very critical in making progress for the energy transition. Let me briefly tell you how we operate at Stanford University in terms of diffuse interface between academia and industry. On the left-hand side of this slide, you can see the core competence of academia, which is our ability to understand the deep science and developing the design rules, to be able to try proof of concepts. We also have large-scale scientific facilities, and we're able to embrace new directions very quickly. On the other hand, industry on the right-hand side also has key competences, for example, in scaling up and prototyping, optimization, system integration, and of course, business model, cost, and lifecycle analysis. The goal here at Stanford is to merge the best of both worlds, taking the academic research and taking the industrial development experience and incorporate them in a pre-competitive setting to empower our students, postdoc staff, and faculty to develop energy technology. And the one of technology for commercialization. Within the university, we are also very proud to have many industrial partners. We have a co-innovation system in which the industry partner co-innovates with Stanford in the surrounding ecosystem to solve difficult challenges. Here you can see companies ranging from automakers to chemical industry, oil, gas, aviation companies, materials company, energy company, and so forth. And a number of our Korean colleagues are also shown here as well. So now let me first touch upon the science aspect. As I mentioned, I will focus my talk on energy storage, which is critical for the energy transition. And the science is very rich in energy storage, all the way from atoms to systems. And here I'm showing, as an example, batteries. And you can have the length scale range from nanometers to many meters, and you can have the time scale range from picoseconds to many years. And this requires to understand all the ingredients from quantum mechanical phenomena all the way to device level integration. And our approach has been to tackle the science and engineering in each one of these scales in order to integrate materials, devices, and systems. Let me give one example of science, scientific understanding. One of the most challenging aspects for battery technology is fast charging, the ability, for example, to recharge your electric vehicle in under 5 or 10 minutes. And here I'm just going to show you a number of nanoscale movies that we have made here at Stanford in order to understand phenomena at the nanoscale. And this really highlights the university's unique role to be able to understand fundamental science. Here in the first example, I'm showing you an overcharging of graphite, which is commonly used in lithium-ion batteries as the anode. The bright object you're seeing is lithium being plated. The second example is lithium being plated in a solid state lithium battery. And the final example on the right shows you the cracking of battery cathodes under fast charging conditions. These images and movies really highlight the university's unique capabilities and also the desire to understand fundamental phenomena that underlies important technologies such as batteries. The second aspect I want to touch upon is speed. As we solve major challenges for the energy transition, speed is one of the most important elements. We have approximately 25 years to deploy all the necessary technologies needed and to scale up. However, developing new technologies, especially new materials for energy storage, has been very challenging. And here at Stanford, and working with our industry partners, we have been focused on using artificial intelligence to substantially decrease the time needed to optimize. In this particular example, we're using AI to optimize fast charging procedures for lithium-ion batteries. Ordinarily, this process would take about 2 years, but in this example, we were able to optimize the system in just 2 weeks by leveraging artificial intelligence. And this is one of the most critical tools we're developing now in order to get to the final solution in record time. Finally, I want to touch upon scale. Universities often are not the best place to scale up new energy technologies, and to achieve this, we must partner. And one of our most successful partners are startups in the Silicon Valley area. Many of these companies are also spun out of Stanford by our students, faculty, and more. And in this slide, I'm showing 10 companies that started from Stanford in the area of energy storage. Just to highlight a few examples, QuantumScape is a developer of solid-state battery. Amprius is developing silicon battery. Cuberg is developing lithium metal batteries. Aionics is developing artificial intelligence methods for optimizing batteries. And Tora Energy is developing thermal energy storage. And Thorough is developing flexible batteries. Enervenue developing nickel hydrogen batteries for grid level storage. Metrochem developing new cathode active material. Inlight developing iron-based long duration storage. And Renewable developing mechanical storage using spent oil gas wells. So these examples highlight the number of technologies we are scaling through partnerships between Stanford and Silicon Valley. Finally, let me also comment on scale in a different way. Because many of the problems for energy storage are very complex and involve a complex system, we have to understand how to scale in a complex environment. One example is the battery circular economy, where we have to think about how to take batteries that have exceeded its first life and think about whether we recycle the batteries, reuse the batteries, or regenerate the battery. And this particular problem requires the convergence of three disciplines: data science, system engineering, and materials and processing. And one of the most important aspects in this problem is to establish a decision-making framework so we can understand how to decide the future of a particular battery system. And we're working very closely with our industry partners to develop this assessment system. A related example is designing a domestic battery circular economy in the United States, whereby we think about how to aggregate and collect used batteries. We think about how to resynthesize materials into new batteries, and then understand how they affect the performance of recycled manufactured batteries. And here we're particularly pleased to work with our local partners to do life cycle analysis to understand what goes in, what goes out of the recycling process, and understand the CO2 footprint of recycling. So hopefully I have given you a brief highlight of how Stanford, Silicon Valley, and the surrounding ecosystem is approaching energy storage innovation for decarbonizing the grid and transportation. And again, I repeat our key philosophies. Number one, having a diffuse interface between all parties. Number two, employ system level thinking. And finally, recognizing the importance of fundamental science. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor Chu, for your really engaging presentation. It was fascinating to hear how co-innovation by academia and industry is rapidly occurring in Silicon Valley to address renewable energy integration challenges. The second presentation, it will be given by Professor Ki-bum Park, an associate professor in the Graduate School of Mobility at KAIST. His research covers the electrification of transportation, renewable integration, microgrid, and etc. Before joining KAIST, he worked as a principal scientist at ABB Corporate Research in Switzerland. His research has appeared in many top-tier journals in power electronics and has been recognized by numerous paper awards domestically and internationally. Professor Park, the floor is yours.
So today's my presenting topic is about the technical challenges in grid integration of renewables. So when we are talking about the grid integration of the renewables, always electrification and renewable energy sources come together because it's always fair. So let's maybe just roughly talk about electrification. So as we can see here, basically transportation sector is one of the major source for the CO2 emissions. So that's the reason in these days why the portion of the electric vehicles are keep increasing in these days. But when we are talking about the electric vehicle and electrifications, we always need to basically consider where this energy comes from. And then basically, that's basically it's about the EV chargers. But always, when it comes to transportations, basically the time is essential. So to reduce the charging time, we need to increase the power rating of the chargers. And basically that naturally increase the power rating of our existing power systems. So I'm just trying to give you just some rough overview, rough idea of what does this really means when we are talking about the huge installation of the very high power EV charging stations. So for example, maybe this is just one example of the peak power profile of the KAIST Munji campus. So as you can see here, so basically peak power is about 1.5 megawatt. But when we are just considering just a couple of ultra-fast EV chargers, the whole power rating is already more than megawatt levels. So that actually means a lot. I mean, we are talking about a lot of electrifications and renewables, but actually, as we really increase the electrification levels, that really impacts a lot of the technical challenges in our grid. And that, of course, also naturally leads to the more demand of the installation of the renewable energy sources if we are really targeting for the this CO2 carbon neutralizations. So, okay, so then it naturally leads to this installation of the renewable energy sources. And basically, this is just a rough overview of our power system. And typically, it consists of the power plant transmissions, distributions, and usually our renewable energy sources are integrated to this distribution level network. And when we are talking about the renewable energy sources, typically, there are two major characteristics. One is intermittency, and the other is it's more relatively distributed generations. So because of these two characteristics, it really creates a lot of challenges for the integration of the renewable energy sources into our existing grid. So then, of course, then this intermittency, of course, always it just naturally leads to the more demand of the energy storage systems. I mean, this is just one example. So, for example, just to charge the electric vehicles through the solar powers, basically, just to handle the large peak of the power demand, basically, it's just solar power is not enough. We need the energy storage systems. But of course, at the same time, this electric vehicle can also be used as also the part of the energy storage systems, of course, so-called that's the vehicle-to-grid technologies. So, and another aspect is renewable energy sources. Basically, it has some intermittency characteristics, but at the same time, usually it's power generation is distributed, and it's relatively low-scale power generations. So to handle also this intermittency with the low power generations, of course, there are many different types of the energy storage technologies required. For small-scale, battery is probably most widely used, but if you are talking about the slightly higher level of the energy storage system, probably battery is not the best solution, probably. Maybe we need to really think about the compressed air or hydro pump, or in these days, we really talk a lot about the hydrogen solutions. So then, and because of this energy storage system, and at the same time, the distributed generation characteristics, these two characteristics naturally leads to this local energy management issues. So basically, it enables us to do the local management of our through the ESS and renewable energy sources. So basically, we are calling this kind of system as a microgrid. So then by doing this, basically, we can also reduce the burden of our transmission systems, and at the same time, we can, of course, possibly increase the more reliable local energy management systems. So, and then when we are also doing this local energy management and also try to really get the huge benefits from the renewable energy sources, one of the challenges is also the forecasting energy productions. Basically, renewable energy sources are, again, it has intermittency characteristics, but if we can predict more accurate energy productions, basically, we can really fully utilize its benefits for our existing power systems. So, okay, so until now, I was just talking about the very basic characteristics of the renewable energy source integrations, but to really connect the renewable energy sources to our existing system, basically we need the key component or power electronics technologies. Usually this enables us the stable connections between the renewable energy source and our existing grid. And basically this power electronics technology is typically it's just the technology combined by the semiconductor or cooling system inductor and capacitors. So basically this power electronics enables, again, the stable connections, but at the same time it increases the it gives us the more functionalities to our grid systems. So at the end, as far as we really establish the stable connection of the renewable energy sources, usually finally it ends up question of the performance. So for example, how efficient this system is, or how small, how light, or how low cost this system is. So finally, as the technology matured, we need to tackle this kind of the performance index questions. So basically, okay, there are a couple of different aspects we need to talk about, but finally, if the renewable energy source integration wants to be more realistic or compatible, then we need to really talk about the efficiency of the system and at the same time cost of the systems. And of course, as we know, basically the DC system or DC grid gives us a lot of benefits from the efficiency point of view. And basically, with Jeju Island, we have the HV DC connections. But when we are collecting the renewable energy sources, basically this DC level or DC collection energy network can also give us from the implementation point of view, more low-cost implementations, and at the same time, it can give us a more higher efficiency energy collection efficiencies. So basically, usually it's quite obvious that your DC grid can give us a lot of benefits, but at the same time, if we really prevail or extend our DC grid, basically we need to interconnect the different level of the DC grids. So in the current technology, basically it's very challenging issues. So to really establish this kind of the full DC grid technologies, basically we are, at the moment, we are investigating, for example, the power electronics-based transformer technologies, so-called solid-state transformers. So by doing this, basically, we can really fully implement the whole different levels of the DC grids in our existing power systems. So, okay, so in short, so here is some, from my side, some summary of the challenges and opportunity of the integration of the renewable energy sources. Of course, first, always it's about the energy storage system. And of course, basically that it naturally also we need to think about the microgrid and also prediction of the energy management is important. And also to increase the efficiency of our collection network of DC is one of the challenges. So all this technology finally leads us to the question of the existing power system or existing renewable energy collection network. Is it really how to make a more efficient or more reliable or lower cost systems? So that's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Park, for your helpful presentation. I thought we are really navigating very complicated issues, and in particular, actually you have identified opportunities and challenges about renewable energy integration, which was really helpful. And also in particular, you have identified one key enabler of renewable energy integration, which is innovations in power electronics. And also you have emphasized that re-establishing a large-scale energy network is not only feasible, but also cost-effective in the era of massive renewable energy integration. Now the question is how we can establish industrial ecosystem to get this grand energy transition going. Our next speaker may have some answer. Our next speaker is Dr. Jeong-nak Son, the former Energy Industry Managing Director in the Office of Strategic R&D Planning in the Ministry of Trade, Industry, and Energy, MOTI. He started his professional career as a mechanical engineer after getting PhD degree at University of Alabama in Huntsville. Before his service as the managing director of MOTI, he was associate scientist at NASA Marshall Space Flight Center and the director of Gas Turbine Research Center at the Korea Institute of Machinery and Materials. So without further ado, let's welcome Dr. Son.
Yeah, thank you. I was the MD, Managing Director of the energy industry in the Office of Strategic R&D Planning, the affiliated organization of MOTI or Korean government until the end of last September. My duty as the energy MD was to prepare the technology readiness for the national energy agenda. During my term, the preparation for the net zero was the biggest issue, biggest national issue. I was responsible for the MOTI's net zero R&D planning, including renewable energies. I know that this session is organized to discuss about challenges about the renewable energy integrations, but my presentation is to introduce current status and issues of global and local renewable energy markets. This may help you to understand that the reason why we have to solve the renewable energy integration issues. Okay. This slide looks very busy, but the most important index for the global energy market is oil price. The oil price change is closely related to the oil supply peak and oil demand peak. When oil price becomes high, it's the period of supply peak. That means consumers worry about the lack of the supply. When oil price becomes low, this is the period of the demand peak. That means suppliers worry about the lack of the demand. After Russian invasion to Ukraine since last February, big changes in global oil prices. The energy crisis in Europe made the global energy market system in chaotic situations. This looks like another supply peak, but many countries recognize that strong dependence on fossil fuel is dangerous for the energy security point of view. This means that demand of oil may be possibly decreased. So we have to watch whether this will be supply peak or demand peak. Okay, after the oil shock with the high oil price in 1970s, the alternative energy was boomed to replace oil to the alternative energy like solar energy. The President Jimmy Carter in 1980s appeared at press conference wearing a sweater, and the solar panel collectors were installed on the roof of White House. Another boom during the last couple of decades was renewable energy, which was similar to the alternative energies in 1970s. But this boom was not because of the high oil price. That was because of the global warming. Now, 70% of global new investment in power generation is in renewable energy. And 47.2% of total energy-related investment in last year was related to the renewable energy. Now, the global renewable energy industry becomes the major industry. After Russian invasion to Ukraine, European countries considered that the renewable energy as the source of energy security to escape from the energy dependence from Russia. This was possible because of the price competitiveness of renewable energies, which were long time persuaded by its industries during last couple of years, a couple of decades. Okay, RE100. RE100 is 100% replace energy from business activities of companies with eco-friendly renewable energies. This is not a government policy. This is not a global agreement such as Paris Agreement. It was launched by the civilian groups such as Climate Change and CDP. Now, 349 global companies, not countries, participated in the RE100, including Apple and Google. RE100 is one of the strongest global activities to extend the renewable energy market in the world. Samsung Electronics, for example, which consumes about 18.4% of the electric generations in Korea, was pressured from its customers, including Apple, to join RE100. They finally declared RE100 in September of this year. The supply of renewable energy for Samsung is not the homework of Samsung itself, but the issue to be solved with government and power companies in this country. Okay, now let me move on to the global and domestic market situations of renewable energies, especially for solar photovoltaics and wind turbines. As the market trends of solar PV, United States plan to invest big money in energy sectors with Inflation Reduction Act, including support to solar PV manufacturers. EU announced in this spring that Repower EU plan to be independent from Russian gas by renewable energy, such as solar. China already dominated in global value chain for solar PV with aggressive investment and strong government support. As the technological trend, the single crystal silicon-based PRC modules lead the global market, and the very high efficient cells like TOPCons and tandem cells is on the progress to be developed globally. The Korean industry, the leading industries for solar photovoltaic businesses in these countries are Hanwha Solutions, Hyundai Energy Solutions, and OCI. During last 10 years, because of the aggressiveness and competitiveness of Chinese companies, upstream value chains such as polysilicon, ingot, wafer were occupied by Chinese companies. Now, Korean solar photovoltaic industries are focused on cells and modules area only. Hanwha Solution has cell and module manufacturing plants in Korea with production capacity about 4.5 gigawatt per year. But also they plan to build new cell and module plants in the United States too. Hyundai Energy Solutions and OCI are also trying to extend their business in solar industries. Then how to strengthen industrial ecosystem of the Korean solar industries? We are going to focus on two solutions. The first one is breakthrough technology, and the second one is market extensions in new areas, new applications. It's not possible to compete with Chinese companies with the traditional technologies and existing market strategy. Tandem cell, which is the hybrid cell of silicon and perovskite cells, is the breakthrough technology that we are focused on. As a new market to extend to floating and offshore and agricultural PVs and BIPVs, we have to achieve price competitiveness by minimizing LCOE with long life. Of course, the waste module recovery and recycling are the important issues to be overcome. In case of wind, new global installation capacity are about 93.6 gigawatt in last year, and is expanding with 6.6% growth per year. Top 3 companies in the world occupy about 36% of global market. Chinese companies are rapidly extending their business areas, especially in their domestic Chinese market. Korea currently has more than 100 offshore wind turbine projects with 35 gigawatt capacity. As a technological trend, super large wind turbine power generation over 10 megawatt class for offshore market is the trend. And floating offshore and wind turbine is another issue to be for the expansion of the wind turbine market. In Korea, there are 2 wind turbine companies, Doosan Enerbility and Unison. Doosan Enerbility, formerly Doosan Heavy Industry, has total 240 megawatt of supplied record, with all of them in domestic Korean market. Unison was focused on domestic onshore market, but tried to expand their business to offshore market too. There are a couple of manufacturing companies for towers and substructures in Korea. Especially CS Wind is world #1 tower manufacturer. And also there are many developers like SK, Hanwha, Neo, and several power generation companies. How to strengthen the industrial ecosystem of the wind turbine business in this country? First of all, we have to take full advantage of the domestic market. Korean government has a huge plan to extend offshore wind power generation around the Korean peninsula, including 8.2 gigawatt class Sinan offshore wind power complex. We have to use this market as the buying power for the domestic wind turbine industries. To do this, we may need super large wind turbine models, especially in 15 megawatt class. If it's not possible to own that kind of models which can be compatible with global companies, we have to find the appropriate collaborations with global companies to maximize mutual interest. Offshore wind farms with industrial complex is another opportunity. United Kingdom does not have any wind turbine manufacturers, but United Kingdom has the world #1 wind turbine industry using the concept of these offshore wind farms with industrial complex. Okay, this is last slide. A couple of months ago, I was considering the appropriate title of my article that I regularly write for one of the newspaper. When I was struggling to express the current chaotic situation of the global geopolitical issue and difficulties in net zero. The title of the song written by Freddie Mercury came to mind. Freddie was a lead singer of legendary vocal group Queens. He was dead by disease. Before his death, the last song he wrote was "The Show Must Go On." He wanted to send a message that the show must go on regardless of his death. I took this as the title of my article. In spite of the endless global geopolitical chaos, the shows for the net zero to overcome climate change must go on. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Indeed, the climate change must go on. Thank you, Dr. Son, for your insightful presentation. In particular, your recommended concrete strategies to strengthen industrial ecosystem of solar and wind power for Korea, and also your suggestion of taking full advantage of domestic market base first for scaling of wind power industrial ecosystem seems really important to me as a scholar in technology management as well. We are now going to start discussion with in-depth comments by two panelists. Let me briefly introduce them. Dr. Chol-Hyu Lee is currently the head of Grid Planning Department at Korea Electric Power Corporation. Dr. Lee received his PhD at Kyushu University and has been playing an important role in developing national system plan for power sector decarbonization. The next panelist is Dr. Jong-Eun Choi. He is currently CEO and founder of Encode Technologies and chair professor at Tech University of Korea. Dr. Choi received his PhD from Chungnam National University and was president of LS Electric. As a member of Korean National Academy of Engineering, he is contributing to various policy advices and developments in the smart grid field. So first, Dr. Lee will share his thoughts.
Thank you for inviting me to this meaningful panel discussion. In order to significantly expand renewable energy, the power industry will face tremendous technological changes and policy changes too. However, there are so many uncertainties in front of us about how the changes will go. I dare say that we are at the beginning of the age of uncertainty. The essential key to carbon neutrality is renewable energy. Is the power grid ready to go carbon neutral? It's a very difficult question, even for me, who is in charge of grid planning, KEPCO inside. Let me briefly share my opinion and what will change in the future and what will contribute most importantly. On the supply side, countries are setting very ambitious targets for the high penetration of renewable energy. Instead of thermal power plants such as nuclear or coal, they are transforming into renewable energy such as solar or wind. In the near future in Korea, the renewable energy will become a major power source. How do we express renewable energy? As shown on the screen, it is commonly expressed as DER, distributed energy resources, or IBR, inverter-based resources. These expressions indicate that there are clear technical differences. Renewable energy, the inverter-based resources, reduces system inertia. Frequency fluctuations are also increasing. Will they only cause these problems? That's not true. It is highly likely that the inverter that looks like a troublemaker can contribute to solving these problems. We look forward to technical progress. On the demand side, electrification of transportation, heating, and cooling brings serious uncertainties. As shown in the picture on the right side of the screen, the global energy mix is projected to shift rapidly towards power and hydrogen. The share of electricity and hydrogen in final energy consumption is now only about just 20%, and it may grow to almost 50% by 2050, according to McKinsey's survey in 2022. The important thing is that these changes in energy consumption eventually turn into new laws. How quickly and how extensively will this electrification take place? I think electrification can only be justified thanks to the expansion of renewable energy, which is eco-friendly, clean, and in line with energy security. The bottom picture on the left shows the pattern of the load and supply of the last year. As you can see on the screen, the red line represents the load, 24 hours, 7 days, 12 months of load, and the blue line is power generation, including the renewable energy production. This year's peak occurred in July, and it was 93 gigawatts. Among them, I only sampled from May to June and predict how much it will change in 2050. The upper diagram, the target year for achieving carbon neutrality is 2050, so let's go to the year 2050. You can see that there is a similarity in the load fluctuations, the red line, from day to day, depending on our lifestyles. And renewable energy output has also similar pattern every day, because most of them in Korea are solar power. The problem is that the power generation exceeds the load very frequently, far beyond the load level. Please keep in mind that the real-time balancing is the most important principle to follow in the power system. If we don't follow this, then the system may collapse. So in that case, we need to curtail overproduction. We often see this curtailment here in this beautiful Jeju Island. Jeju Island is interconnected to the mainland with only 2 HVDCs, and the third one is under construction. The penetration of renewable energy in Jeju Island exceeds 18%, almost 18% last year, and we may have a goal of achieving 75% by 2030. This means renewable energy supply is almost 60 or 70% or higher instantaneously. So I don't think that it's reasonable to throw away or waste the overflowing energy. So the energy storage system should be required. The figure on the right shows how much ESS will be needed to store excess renewable energy. The vertical axis left side is stored energy in red, and the right side axis is supply-demand imbalance, and shown in green. The first picture shows the result when we only apply ESS. It costs a lot, of course, to install ESS as much as that area. The second figure shows the effect of renewable energy production management in addition to ESS installation. And the last one is the result of demand response altogether with the ESS and energy management more aggressively. So the imbalance and the amount of stored energy decrease. As you can see, we can find it's much more effective to apply various systems together than just installing only ESS. Naturally, the penetration of renewable energy can be much higher. I just talked about the technical impact, and I also briefly showed you the institutional impact. Typically, ESS could play an important role. However, I would like to say that it is necessary to consider how to mix institutional measures optimally with each other along with the technical measures. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Lee, for sharing your important perspective on policy and market arrangements and technology innovations needed to ramp up renewable energy. Now, next, Dr. Choi will discuss his thoughts.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm very honored that I can speak here. Okay. This picture was drawn by myself 3 years ago by imaging what an energy system would look like if it became carbon neutral for the internal area. But the government don't like this picture because of the SMR, so not widely spread. Now we have to imagine what will happen when 100% the renewable energy is connected to the power system. Because most of the DRs are interfacing with the power system through the inverter. The grid will be dominated by electronic equipments and technology. And the second is since so many small-scale distributed energy resources are connected to the distribution grid, not transmission grid, it is so difficult to know when, where, and how much energy are being produced. In other words, it will be in the form of the energy clouded. And so, the energy system will be challenged with the previously unthinkable, the reliability and the stability issues. So the power quality and protection at the grid system may be very critical the issues. And finally, we will experience the need for resilience, for contingency, and the problems such as black start due to the unexpected the power system islanding from the grid. Already I summarized the issues by DRs and the solutions in some pages like this one. Now this slide are using at many the university by teaching the students. This is the energy cloud, the form, and the other is the repowering and the new players. When the power electronic converter connected to the grid, the way to control the grid will be changed significantly. On the traditional grid based on AC, the control parameters of voltage, phase angle, and load are interdependent. So when one variable fluctuates, all other variables are also changed. So it was difficult to secure stability. But on the new power system based on power electronics, in that case, the voltage, phase angle, and inertia are controlled independently. So the controllable and the stability are determined by the size of the converter. From now, the flexibility solution results from combining the innovation across the power sector, such as smart, virtual, and optimization. So the flexibility solution should have the performances of the controllable and the dispatchable at any time. That was power plan. all players or utilities should the procurement all of these flexible energy resources in the wholesale market. For the example, through the virtual power plant. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Che. Thank you so much, Dr. Che, for showing us a concrete vision for renewable powered future. So we are running out of time. However, we are going to have a quick open discussion. We have 3 speakers and 2 panelists waiting offline and online. In order to proceed efficiently in consideration of time, let me ask my one single question to Professor Chu and Dr. Lee and Dr. Che on what do you think is the most important policy and market innovation required for large-scale integration of renewable sources to the grid? And tell us one and tell us why. And Professor Chu, can you start first?
Certainly, it's my pleasure. So I think the most important policy that we can implement is to help industry decrease the risk of deployment. So as we consider new energy technology, for example, energy storage, the risk of deployment is extremely high because we're currently developing new technology with unproven lifetime reliability and safety. I think from the policy side, incentives to decrease the risk of deployments and also scale up will ultimately accelerate the timeline for deploying energy storage and other solutions. I think the challenge we're facing today is we're compressing the technology development time while also asking the scale up and deployment to occur more rapidly. So these intrinsically are very difficult to realize at the same time. So I think government and policymakers can help to absorb some of this risk and therefore bring technology to deployment at scale faster.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for saying us the importance of government incentives and subsidies. And then now next, probably the Dr. Lee Chul-hyu 박사님, can you briefly comment on what is needed in terms of policy and institutional arrangements?
Well, depending on the degree of penetration of renewable energy, there are various technical measures required step by step. Also, I can say there are various institutional systems necessary to expand the renewable energy, such as demand response and virtual power plant and renewable energy zone and so forth. However, the purchase of renewable energy is only the KEPCO's role here in Korea. Now, I'd like to say KEPCO is in a very serious financial crisis. It is frustrating why electricity bills are not correlated to the international fuel prices. One of the implications of this situation is that the energy policy in Korea moves regardless of the market. The price signal does not work here in Korea, even though the power market exists. So let me ask you, do we have the right regulatory models in place to encourage and reward? I believe that the governance issue is important as the policy innovations. Many experts say that it is because there is no independent energy regulatory body. Independent regulators mean political independence. We have to leave it to the market. So we don't have any independent regulatory bodies such as NERC or PUC in USA. So I'd like to emphasize again that it is very necessary and it is very urgent to establish an independent regulatory body to review and approve whether the transmission expansion or electricity tariff increase is appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. I cannot agree with you more on your perspective on new types of governance for new types of system. Now, Dr. Che, could you comment quickly about it?
Yeah, briefly, I will comment. I think that any country's the strategy will vary a lot depending on where it aims. So it depends on whether you are looking to create markets to grow the economy, or if you are more focused on the country's energy security. So, however, in Korea, both of these are necessary. The market and the institutional design are relatively far behind compared to overseas, and the strategy for the natural energy security does not seem to be clear. I think that there should be a bolder and faster strategy at execution. For us, as an energy island, safe base power generation such as nuclear power is important. But for resilience, it is necessary to introduce the DRs, the energy policies such as the microgrid, which are regionally distributed. Thank you.
Thank you so much. But before we finish, let me ask another important question to the remaining two speakers. This time the question goes to Professor Park and Dr. Son. The question is, what do you think is the most important technology innovation required for large-scale integration of renewable energy to the grid? Could you pick one and tell us why? Probably Professor Park, could you quickly comment on it?
Okay, so if I have to, okay, thank you. If I have to pick the only one technology, of course, if you really want to integrate a large amount of the renewable energy sources, I mean, it has to be the energy storage systems, of course. Without that, basically, we cannot really fully utilize the renewable energy sources. But always the issue is, as the other professor says, basically, at this moment, the availability of the battery energy storage system or other high power storage system actually at the moment is too costly, or sometimes there are some reliability issues, and also at the same time, most important part is the cost issues. So it is energy storage is really probably the most important technology, but at the end, to fully achieve that 100% renewable energy society, basically we really need to implement low cost, reliable, and efficient storage systems. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And Dr. Son?
Yeah, thank you. Upon my experience as the policy-related activities during the last 2 years, I met many technologies that are involved about the renewable energy integrations and other issues. I think that I cannot specify just one technology, but I can say that it's the time for action, not for the discussions. I met hundreds of experts during the last 2 years about the discussion for what will be the technologies for renewables and renewable integrations. So we have a lot of databases, hundreds of technologies we reviewed. And it's the time to prioritize the technologies and choose the technologies as the to invest. I think that's one of the important things that we have to do from now on. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your very wise answer to my foolish question, actually. Yeah, there is no silver bullet. Yeah, so so that we need to prioritize all the technologies available based upon economics and also policy acceptance. Okay, so this concludes session 1. Thank you, presenters and panelists, audiences, for all your contribution and attention. And thank you, Professor Chu, connecting online late at night. And thank you so much. Let's give them a big round of applause. Okay, we'll soon continue with session 2. Let me invite the moderator of the second session, Professor Young-Sung Lee, is the professor of Graduate School of Environmental Studies in Seoul National University. And after receiving his PhD from Cornell University, he has established his scholarly career in the area of urban and regional planning, smart cities, and also sustainable development. And more recently, Professor Lee has been contributing to Jeju Smart City Challenge projects as well. Professor Young-Sung Lee, now the session is yours.
Thank you, Professor. I'm Young-Sung Lee. I'm now working for Seoul National University, and now I'm teaching urban and regional economics and associate planning and smarter cities. In the session 2, there are 4 speakers who will deal with international experiences relating to today's issues, 2 additional discussants. First of all, I would like to introduce the first presenter, whose name is Vinod Tiwari. Mr. Tiwari, can you begin?
Thank you very much. Great to be in the company of this esteemed audience and panelists. My name is Vinod Tiwari, and I'm the Global Head of Business Development and Partnerships for Power Ledger, based out of Australia. I'm actually in Perth, so very warm good day from Perth to all of you. I'll share my presentation. It is about, as the moderator introduced the subject, it is about integration of renewable on the grid. And that is what we enable as Power Ledger ourselves. So we are about enabling orderly scaling up of renewables on the grid. And in this presentation, I will talk about how we make this happen. And the base approach that we take, of course, is the market-based solution, which enables energy to be cheaper, cleaner, and makes energy system more resilient. Before I get into the details, just a quick introduction about Power Ledger itself. We are headquartered in Western Australia in Perth, started about 6 years ago. A whole range of solutions that from first proof of concept in Western Australia, we've now got presence in 12 countries and continuously growing. Our footprint expands to ASEAN region, South Asia. Australia, of course, is the home base, 5 countries in Europe, and also both on east and west coast of United States, and also in South America and Chile as well. And the projects range from transactive energy trading to grid flexibility solutions, and also provenance tracking of energy itself. And I will talk more about it as we progress. So the challenges, obviously, with renewables integration is what we are talking about. And I can start with 2 very critical challenges that make this chart almost kind of to be understood better. And what this is talking about is countries which have done really well in renewable deployment. The cost of energy or electricity supply for those customers still hasn't come down. In fact, those countries which are doing really well, like Germany, Australia, etc., the cost of energy supply for residential as well as commercial industrial clients is very high. And that is high because, and this problem is set to get worse. And this is because of the place problem with renewable. You end up generating too much renewable where it's not necessarily required. So you need to build the transmission distribution infrastructure to transport the energy. And also with the time problem. You do end up with too much excess when you have a lot of solar, for example, here in Australia. Majority of the states have a lot of excess energy during daytime. And as soon as the solar hours finish, the peak load reappears on the grid, causes this duck curve problem. And this duck curve, which is the load demand curve, makes the electricity system very hard for the grid operators to operate. So that's, and it's kind of visible in this slide as well, which says that in the last 3 years, while the investment in renewables gone up significantly, it has required the similar sort of investment in the transmission distribution infrastructure as well. So we solve this problem of time and place with 24/7 renewable energy. And we do it, we firstly firmly believe that the grid is only as good as the markets that sit behind it. And we use blockchain as the core technology to spin up multiple marketplaces to address this problem. And these marketplaces start from local energy market, peer-to-peer enabled local energy market, transactive energy solutions around grid flexibility, but also enabling through marketplaces for environmental commodity. We enable sharing, trading of renewable energy commodity as well. So obviously, as we all know, the energy world is shifting significantly from the centralized power station to consumer type of model to this new energy paradigm, which is starting to create a two-sided marketplace or two-sided distributed energy system, where consumers, there's a lot of rooftop solar, more distributed renewable across the grid. It is not fully recognized in the way that the market doesn't recognize it as a system that is participating in the wholesale market. So wholesale market still addresses as if there is only centralized power supply and does the clearance mechanism and scheduling only on those large-scale power stations. So we are progressing to this, creating the additional market layers in this new energy paradigm. And I'm talking about the layer 2 and layer 3 here. Typically, you have the building, the site level, the campuses, which might have already been participating through load shifting or demand response, etc., in a system which enables them to participate in the wholesale market, be it for ancillary services, frequency control through aggregated VPP, etc., or for participation in energy arbitrage type of opportunities around the world. In the US, for 22 is starting to enable that. In Australia, there is energy arbitrage market, and so in many other countries as well. What's missing is the recognition of these two layers in between, which is about peer-to-peer enabled 24/7 local energy market, where energy can be aggregated at the local level from rooftop solar, and batteries can be brought into play as well for storage of any excess energy and then dispatch at the time when the grid needs it more, and creating a marketplace for this. So that's what we are enabling through our technology. And also for higher level flexibility services for grid operators when they need to secure services for voltage imbalances, reactive power management, enabling it in a market-based mechanism. So empowering the consumers where they can start to bid through their renewable assets, their excess energy, in a way that creates a marketplace for flexibility, but also a peer-to-peer enabled marketplace for sharing trading that reduces congestion on the grid. So the augmentation of distribution network could potentially be deferred, and also enables procurement of flexibility services in a more organized and efficient manner. Beyond that, of course, we all know there is a huge mega trend led by Google that started initially from RE100 initiatives to a 24/7 carbon-free energy movement. We are proud to be one of the founding members, working group members of United Nations 24/7 carbon-free energy compact. And we are working through our solutions to enable visualizations, provenance tracking of energy, and then providing a whole range of other solutions from visibility of energy to filling the gaps as they progress in their decarbonization pathway to 24/7 carbon-free energy world. And as you'd notice, there are some product names described here. Vision is our solution for traceability of energy. TraceX enables a marketplace for buying and selling of renewable energy certificates, green certificates, guarantees of origin. And we're progressing that as part of energy tag members, creating a standardization system for granular RECs or time-enabled environmental certificates, sharing trading so that businesses can procure renewable certificates matching with their consumption profile itself. Probably progress this and why we use blockchain. So it obviously comes with huge benefits of recording all the transactions, creating this audit trail, smart contracting capability, making the transactions more sort of faster and cost efficient, better control, tokenizing REX, so you cannot have any duplication, etc., mitigating settlement risk, and progressing the entire sort of supply chain to a much more efficient of REX to an efficient system. So we've done it now in the last several years for various products, launched the solutions globally. Renewable energy certificate marketplace is operational now in the United States, but many other solutions from Transactive Energy. The first demonstration peer-to-peer energy project was in Bangkok. That is still progressing, and it almost kind of leads the way as the most innovative, pioneering solution. And on the back of that, many other projects then came in Asia and other countries as well. Chiang Mai University were demonstrating multiple things. So this is a project which will eventually have up to 18 megawatt of solar, large battery on campus. More than 140 buildings will have rooftop solar, and we'll be enabling sharing, trading of energy across the building, traceability of energy, traceability of their carbon footprint, enabling them to declare buildings as carbon-free energy buildings, but also create provenance tracking of energy for EV charging, and participating with other core members in VPP services as well. In India, we have multiple projects. One with Tata Power is that I wanted to mention here. We did a pilot that is now led to progression to potential regulatory changes. So one of the other piece that I wanted to talk about is these companies like ours. We don't only offer applications, but we go upstream and we work with policymakers and regulators, and in demonstrating to them how these new technologies can actually enable better, faster integration of distributed renewable. So this project is leading to a potential regulatory change in Delhi state. Another project in the largest state of India, in Uttar Pradesh, has already led to regulatory changes. So we worked very closely on invitation of the regulator and the state's largest utility, created a local peer-to-peer energy trading system using our blockchain technology that progressed to regulatory changes to deploy peer-to-peer across the whole state commercially. So, and obviously the project was very well received. It was recognized by World Summit Awards as well for meeting the United Nations sustainability objectives on sustainable cities and communities, as well as for affordable and clean energy solutions as well. We also worked with SEDA, Sustainable Energy Development Authority, which is owned by Government of Malaysia, Ministry of Energy, to do a national pilot with them to create, again, a framework or give them enough data points so that they can create framework for peer-to-peer energy trading in Malaysia, and that's progressing now. Just to wrap up, our projects continue to be across the globe. In France, we're working with energy retailer Equator to roll out visibility or traceability of energy solution called Choose Your Energy Mix, where their consumers can not only procure green energy, but get a visibility of what type of green energy is coming in their portfolio and actually create a choice and decide tomorrow I want to buy 50% solar from that solar farm and 30% wind from that wind farm because I want to support those projects. So providing that consumer empowerment and traceability of energy at the same time. And also on smart cities and smart suburbs, our pioneering project here in Australia, in the city of Fremantle, enabled us to receive Australian government grant, and we demonstrated how peer-to-peer and VPP solution potentially together can be integrated in a way that addresses the problem of scaling up of renewable in an orderly way. So that's pretty much the wrap up from my side. I will stick around for any questions. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you for your insightful presentations, and we could know about the innovative measures in your countries. Thank you again. The second presenter, whose name is Toru Shiba. Professor Shiba.
Yes. My name is Toru Shiba in Osaka Gas. I will give a presentation in Japanese. with an interpreter. 本日は国際フォーラムにお招きいただきありがとうございます。
Good afternoon. I am Toru Shiba from Osaka. Thank you very much for inviting me to this forum today.
私からは近未来の住まいに関する実験についてご紹介します。
Today, I'd like to tell you all about the experiments we are doing. It's about housing in near future.
まず大阪ガスについて簡単にご紹介します。
First, let me introduce our company, Osaka Gas.
大ガスグループとして関連会社が約150社あります。
As Daigas Group, we have about 150 associated companies working with us.
主な事業は国内でのエネルギー供給です。
Our core business is energy supply in Japan.
大阪、京都、神戸などで約500万件のお客様に都市ガスを供給しています。
We provide city gas for more than 5 million households in Osaka, Kobe, Kyoto.
日本で2番目に大きなガス会社です。
We are the second largest gas provider in Japan.
また電力供給も行っており、お客様数は160万件。
We are also in electricity supply business as well. We have about 1.6 million customers.
太陽光発電、火力発電、風力発電などの発電所も運営しています。
And we operate power plants too, including solar, thermal, and power generation.
2つ目の事業は海外でのエネルギー事業です。
Other key business includes overseas energy business.
3つ目はエネルギーから発生した事業で、都市開発や炭素材などの材料、情報技術などです。
And in addition, we do urban development, material development, including carbon, and information technology. These are all derived from energy business.
またエネルギー事業としてガス機器の開発も行っています。
As a part of energy business, we develop devices powered by gas.
自社ブランドの給湯器やガスコンロ、暖房機をはじめ、エネファームという商品名の燃料電池システムにも力を入れています。
We focus on products such as water heater, gas stoves, and these are our private brands. Also, the fuel cell system, we call this Enefarm. This is another key product portfolio for Osaka Gas.
本題である未来の住まいに関する実験をご紹介します。
Now, let's talk about our project, which is the focus point of this presentation, future housing.
これは弊社が建設した実験集合住宅 NEXT21 です。
This is NEXT21, our experimental housing complex.
大阪市内1993年に建設しました。
The building is completed in Osaka City in 1993.
大阪ガスの社員が家族で居住し、さまざまな実験に参加しています。
Our employees live there with their family, and they participate in various experiences.
言い換えるとこれは未来の暮らしの実験フィールドです。
We could say, well, this is the test fields into our future life.
エネルギーや機器の実験だけでなく、ライフスタイルに関するものも行っています。
What we do there for experiments are not limited to energy devices, but also takes on the life things relating to our lifestyles as well.
この NEXT21 は建物を長期に使用できるようになっています。
The housing we use for NEXT21 is designed to last a long time.
スケルトンという骨組みの部分は100年以上の耐久性を持たせた上で、内装であるインフィルや設備配管は必要に応じて変更できるようになっています。
Skeleton, the framework, is durable, that could last for more than 100 years. Although the interior, infills, and pipes and tubes, they can be replaced as needed.
これにより、建物の用途が変わっても、リフォームを行いながら、長期に使用が可能になり、資源の無駄を少なくなります。
This allows people to use a building for extended time of period with the freedom to renovate if necessary. Therefore, we believe NEXT21 can help reducing the waste of resources in the long run.
スケルトンはジャングルジムのような形をしています。
The skeleton is shaped like a jungle gym.
その中にインフィルや設備が組み込まれています。
Infills and other facilities are built into it.
針と柱で構成されているので、住戸の形を変えたり、玄関や窓の位置を変更できます。
Since skeleton is only made of beams and columns, you can change the shape of the building or relocate windows or entrance door.
通常のマンションでは、水回りの設備の場所が固定されていることが多いです。
Water facilities in conventional flats are normally fixed.
NEXT 21では住戸の外に縦配管を2箇所設置しています。
However, within Next 21, two vertical pipes are installed outside.
右の図にあるように、共用廊下を配管スペースにして、住戸内も二重床二重天井にして配管レイアウトの自由度を確保しています。
As shown in a picture on your right-hand side, the corridors are used as drainage purpose, and double floor, double ceilings are installed to give more flexibility for piping layout.
このように、インフィールド設備機器の自由度を大きくして、建物全体を長期に使用できるようにしています。
By providing more freedom for infill settings and facilities, we believe this building can last for a long time.
次に自然との共生です。
Now, let's move on to the promotion of green zones.
NEXT 21では、屋上だけではなく、テラスにも緑地を置いて、縦につながった緑地になっています。
In Next 21, you can find plants and vegetation not only on the rooftop, but also the terrace, thus creating vertically connecting green zone.
この NEXT 21の緑地は周辺の緑地と近い距離にあり、緑地のネットワークを構成しています。
The green area installed in Next 21 are in a close proximity to surrounding green zones, whereby altogether they can build up green networks.
都市の中でも飛べる距離に周りの緑地があるということがポイントです。
Lovely thing is, this building is located in urban area, but the natural habitats are right next to it, very close indeed. Even birds can fly by.
建物に緑地が多いことで温度環境も変化します。
Having lots of green can change thermal environment too.
夏の午後のサーモグラフの写真です。
This is thermography taken in one hot summer evening or afternoon.
近所のコンクリート製の建物は気温より5度以上高い温度になっていますが、NEXT 21では緑地の部分は温度が温と同じぐらいになっていて、そこを抜けてくるときは涼しく感じます。
You can see the temperature of concrete building nearby is 5 degrees higher than atmosphere temperature. But Next 21, green areas holding back the temperature are same as the atmosphere temperature. When the wind blows in, it actually feels cooler.
集合住宅用のエネルギーシステムの実験にも力を入れています。
At Next 21, we validate energy systems for housing complex as well.
2007年に水素燃料電池の実験を行っています。
We've conducted tests for hydro fuel cells in 2007.
屋上にガスから水素を製造する装置を置き、配管で水素を住戸に供給します。
First, a device that can produce hydrogen from city gas is installed on a rooftop so that hydrogen can be supplied across the building through the pipeline.
住戸には水素燃料電池が設置されており、500ワットの発電を行います。
These few hydro fuel cells can generate up to 500 watts.
複数の燃料電池で電力や熱を融通する実験を行いました。
By using several fuel cells like this, we conducted tests to deliver power and heat within the facility.
居住者が生活する場での実験なので、安全対策をしっかり行いました。
Whilst we are doing all this testing, safety is our biggest priority.
5年間と問題なく運転することができました。
We ensured safety of people who live there for 5 years, no incidents or no error.
現在はここに燃料電池を設置しています。
Now, about energy saving experiments, we installed a fuel cell on each buildings within the complex.
機器の実験だけではなく、居住者に省エネ行動をしてもらうような実験も行っています。
Objectives are to test the device, of course, but we wanted to see how people behave when it comes to energy conservation.
再生可能エネルギーとしては太陽電池があります。
As a renewable energy source, we have solar system.
屋上で合計約17キロワットの太陽電池を設置しています。
Solar cells installed on top of the building, they can generate up to 17,000 watts in total.
NEXT 21は居住者が関与する実験ができます。
As I mentioned, we are conducting various types of experiments they're not just for the validation of hardwares, but more importantly, help people use these hardwares.
例えばエネルギーシステムの実験では、システムを生活の中で使用して、耐久性や省エネ性が目標に達しているかどうかなどデータを取得します。
For instance, a test for energy system, we want to find out how people using this system, and at the same time, we like to find out how durable and how energy effective, efficient these systems are.
開発中の機器を設置して、居住者が生活の中で利用して、その感想を調査します。
Sometimes we ask residents to use devices that are still in the development phases.
意見をもとに改良して発売されるものもありますが、発売中止になってしまうものもあります。
And later, we ask them how they liked it. And based on their feedback, these products can be put into the market after improvements, but others, unfortunately, never see the light.
ライフスタイルについてもアンケートやヒアリングで調査をします。
Other things we do there is that we also study into their lifestyles, as well conducting surveys, and we do talk to them later.
住まいの中でどこで何をしているのかを調査します。
What we like to know, what we like to find out is where are they staying in the building mainly.
電気やお湯をどのように使っているかも調査します。
And how we also probe into water, how they're using water and how they're using electricity.
緑地ではどのような野鳥や昆虫がいるかを調査します。
Our experiments do have a scientific element as well.
面積の割に昆虫の種類が多いと言われています。
We're trying to find out types of insects and birds that lives in the nearby green areas. It's been said, despite of the size of green spaces, which is small, a larger population of insects are confirmed.
最後に居住者の省エネ行動に関する実験をご紹介します。
Lastly, let me touch upon energy conservation.
デマンドレスポンスの実験です。
Well, this is demand response experience.
例えば、節電してほしい時間帯の電気料金を高くします。
Well, in this trial, we asked people in a building to save energy on purpose. What we wanted to see is whether this should be any changes on the demand and responses.
そのように居住者に連絡した場合に、どのように行動するかという実験になります。
Well, let's say we charge higher rates on electricity during the hours when we don't want them to use so much electricity. The trials are to see how they behave when they are asked to do so.
節電の要請に応じた人もいれば、応じない人もいました。
Well, some said okay, and others did not follow.
後日ヒアリングをすると、電気料金はあまり行動の理由ではなく、お願いすることが大事だということが分かりました。
Interesting finding is the price on energy bills was not really a key driver on how they behaved. It didn't much influence their decision-making process.
日本語のみですが、ネクスト21の実験をホームページで掲載しています。ご覧ください。以上で発表終わります。
Finally, this is a homepage for our project. It's all in Japanese, but you can visit our website for more information. And this concludes my presentation. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Toroshiba. He delivered very interesting project in Osaka. The project also shows the flexible design of a building can save energy. And he also delivered a kind of living net, which is very similar to Jeju. And those points will be, I hope, will be discussed in the discussion soon. And I'd like to introduce the third presenter, who are now working for the Hanwha, a very famous energy, Korean energy company. Would you please begin?
Yeah, thank you. I give a presentation on the title of Smart City and Renewable as a service. What is the relations between smart city and renewable energy? To make it easy to approach, I search for the related words. The first is smart city, is as a related word is business, city, enterprise, plan, and so on. The next is smart renewable, is energy, is enterprise, biomass, the carbon, nuclear, and and so on. The commonality of two words was analyzed as a business, government, carbon, enterprise, and industry. As you see, smart city have a strong positive view. And then renewable energy has a firm negative view. After all, in terms of the supply of energy in smart city, it has no choice but to depend on renewable energy. Smart grid, one of the components of a concept of a smart city, provide countless functions in various locations. In particular, smart renewable will success better, but this energy is required for RPS policies. Voluntary global campaign renewable 100 will become mandatory. So society is demanding too much renewable energy. In order to overcome the limitation of the smart city using solar power, other renewable energy, especially the solar photovoltaic, is I think it can be successful. Only the capacity of the module per unit must be increased. Current capacity is limited. Although the building look for the south or the southeast in Korea, VIPV can be a solution even if the total efficiency is low. Also, mini solar power will be an answer in Korea, which has an apartment orientation culture. We need a change of mind. Below is the average payment of domestic cell phone bill per person. If the considering a family of 4, we will pay 6 million won per year, and the payment will be 60 million won for 10 years. But we are willing to pay this money because it is worth paying. Assume the cost of the installing PV is 2,001 watt P. This is the amount that can be installed 30 kilowatt P. The customer keep to using only utility energy. However, we are willing to pay the cell phone bill. They are more expensive than electricity bill. Also, replace expensive smartphone every 2 or 3 years. If we start with the same concept of energy as a cell phone, we can install solar power, willing to pay, and become self-consumption in electrical energy. But there is a reason why we cannot. This is a product exists in the power industry as a photovoltaic. There is no service the customer can participate in. This is because the electricity rates are more willing to offset than the attractive of installing a grid edge product. The intangible energy is perceived as a public good rather than competition market. This table is show Apple's service. You know, the service is we say the App Store. App Store is seems small in the overall portion, but the operating profit is over the 70%. When energy approach as a service concept, it will be a shortcut to a smart city based on renewable energy. Apple is not a manufacturer. Apple is a service provider. In the past, phone used to be only for calling. Currently, it has been transformed into a way of providing many services due to a medium of the internet. Look at the recent cacao crisis. phone have become another culture, not a phone. In other words, it has developed into a service rather than a call to somebody. We say it's smartphone. Just as phone has become smartphone, city must need some kinds of service to become a smart city. The convenience of ICT technology attracts customers to a specific pace, and we are willing to pay for an app or something else. As for electric energy, when public resources are expanded through the service, renewable energy will be expanded on the product basis. To do so, we need an energy platform and the act as a medium, for example, VPP, aggregator, and so on. Then, in order to own the product as a PBO and so on, the market must be segmented through the energy platform. In the case, the participation rate for purchasing product and service will be increased naturally, and the market can be made. Smart city and the renewable energy can be organized into 5 categories. First is smart city as a service, and need a playground when the voluntary participation is possible. Increase the capacity per unit area of portable modules, and willing to offset to willing to pay. Change savings to service. I think it would be a good opportunity to have an electric provider just as a renewable energy in each smart cities, smartphone, smart city, smart renewable, and the meaning of smart is another word is a service. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Hitel Lee. He pointed out a very interesting contrast by pointing out the weaker willingness to pay for the energy, but higher, stronger willingness to consume the cell phone. And he also proposed an ingenious idea to enhance. Yeah, thank you. And let me introduce the first presenter who is participating in Jeju Smart City project. Would you please begin, Mr. Ji-hyuk Kim?
Yes, please understand that I will be presenting in Korean. As introduced, I am Kim Ji-hyuk, Director of City Labs. I am currently in charge of Jeju Island Smart City Challenge project. So let me walk you through my project. I am first of all very glad to be standing before you. Now let us move right on. So the Ministry of Land, Transport and Infrastructure is providing subsidies for Jeju Island Smart City Challenge project. And this is a 22 billion won worth of projects. The Jeju City and the ministry is supervising them, and a total of 15 different companies are taking part in this project. And we are going to conduct this project by 2022, December 31st. And let me explain why we decided to choose Jeju Island as a target. As you know, Jeju is the biggest island in Korea. And also, Jeju Island has this 2030 carbon-free island project. The idea is to turn the entire internal combustion engine cars in Jeju Island into EV cars. And as a result of this policy, Jeju Island has the highest EV proportion. Jeju's EV proportion is double the average of Korea as a whole. Also, the renewable energy distribution rate is quite high as well.
그런데 이제 여기에서
But this is causing lots of
구체적인
problems.
문제들이 지금 생겨나고 있습니다. 특히나 그 전동
In
그
particular,
모빌리티의 어떤
we
전동화를
introduced lots
위해서
of personal
개인형
mobilities to
모빌리티들이 많이
utilize
보급이
the
됐는데
renewable
여기에서
energies, but
개인형
because
모빌리티의 어떤
these
무분별한 어떤
mobilities are
사용으로
being
인해서 여러 가지
misused and
뭐
abused,
방치되는 문제라든가
there are
이런
some
여러
issues
가지 사회
regarding
문제가
those
발생을 하고
facility
있고요. 또 한 가지는
waste.
신재생 에너지가 많이 보급이 되면서 이 신재생 에너지를 보급량에
And
맞춰서
also,
소비가
the
여기에
consumption
맞춰서
does
이렇게
not seem
만들어져야
to
될 텐데
be
이
in
소비량이 그렇게
lockstep
크지가
with the
않습니다.
supply
그래서
of renewable
지금
energies.
그 출력 제한이라고 하는 신재생 에너지 생산 시설을 그 일부 그러니까
As a
신재생
result, we need
에너지
to
생산
introduce curtailment.
양을 이게 제어하는 그런 방식으로
So we are
지금
currently
현재
curtailing
생산을
the
제어하고 있는
supply
그런
or the
상황입니다.
production.
그래서 이것을 그 신재생 에너지를 보다 더 많이 활용할
So
수 있고
in
보다 사용량을
this
높이기
project
위한
is one
하나의
of the
어떤
ways to
방식을
increase
저희가
the
사업
utilization
단에서
of renewable
제안을 하는
energies.
그런 방식으로
And
지금
we
사업이
are
진행이 되고
presenting
있습니다.
different ideas
그래서
for
저희가
that.
지금 현재
And we
가지고
have
있는
two big
솔루션은 크게
solutions
두
for that.
가지입니다. 신재생 에너지를
First,
활용도를 높이기 위해서 한 가지는 에너지를 신재생 에너지 활용하는 그런
we would
모빌리티를
have
최대한 많이
to
보급한다라는
deploy
게 첫
as
번째
much
컨셉이고요.
EV-based
그다음에 두 번째
mobilities.
컨셉으로는 신재생 에너지가 활용되는 방법 중에서 개인 간의 어떤 에너지 생산된 에너지를 개인 간
Also, the
유통을 시키는 그런
P2P
개인 간 P2P
transaction
거래를 실증을 하는 그런
would have to
방식으로
be
저희가
demonstrated,
크게 두
and that
가지로
is
현재
why we
진행이
are
되고
focusing
있습니다.
on that part
그래서
as well.
모빌리티의 공유를 위해서 저희가 스마트
And we
허브라는
have
오프라인
established
거점을
Smart Hub,
만들고
which
이
is an
스마트
EV
허브를 거점으로
charging
해서
mobility
개인형
sharing
모빌리티를
platform.
공유하는 그런 서비스를 지금 현재 진행을
This
하고 있고요.
project is
그다음에 두
currently
번째로
in
신재생
progress.
에너지를 공유하기
And we
위해서
also
그리드
have
플러스라고
a
하는
Grid Plus,
모빌리티
which
공유
is a
플랫폼을
mobility
저희가
sharing
공유해서
platform,
서비스를
and
지금
this is
현재
currently under
준비를 하고
development.
있습니다. 지금 보시는 바와 같이 지도상에 표시되어 있는 이
These
점들은
dots on the map
제주도 전체에
represent the
분포되어 있는
smart
저희
hubs
스마트
on
허브를
Jeju
가지고
Island.
있습니다. 이 스마트 허브는 모빌리티 공유 거점이면서
They are the mobility sharing hubs, while at the same time they are renewable energy sharing hub.
모빌리티를 공유할 때 모빌리티가 지금까지는 기존의 서비스들은
In the past,
그 기업들이
the
직접
companies
모빌리티를
had
배치하고
to deploy the mobilities
어떤
and they had to
배치하고 이런
recharge
방식이었는데
them.
저희는
So companies were
여기에
leading the initiatives until
직접적으로
now.
신재생
But
에너지
we
ESS를
introduced
도입을 해서
ESS,
ESS에 신재생 에너지를
where the renewable
저장하고
energies are stored in the ESS and can be used to charge the mobilities. So our approach is quite different from existing approaches. And also for the P2P in exchange, we are building the energy community town. The electricity produced here will be stored in the ESS and then will be used to charge the mobility. So we are aiming for this kind of virtuous cycle. This is the first of its kind in Korea, and we received approval from the regulatory sandbox project by the government. And this smart hub comes in these 4 different types. First is gas station type, then lifestyle type, and then energy town type, and fourth, smart plus hub.
아까 말씀드린 대로 2030 CFI 2030 이 정책에 따라서 2030년까지 제주도 내에 있는
As I said before, about 95% of the gas stations will go away because of the 2030 CFI projects going on in Jeju Island. And that means that the gas stations will have to disappear. So we want to proactively transition these gas stations and provide some meaningful services. And in the meantime, we want to demonstrate their effectiveness. And also at marts or in convenience stores or in these hubs that we see in our daily lives, we hope to turn them into personal mobility charging stations. Also, we hope to create an energy town as well. And also the last one, the Smart Plus Hub, It is about integrating all of them together. A lot of the people would be coming to Jeju through the Jeju International Airport. So our idea is to really converge all of these different types near the International Airport of Jeju so that people can actually utilize these different services and see how renewable energies can be used in real life. So this is a bird's eye view of Smart Plus Hub. We have just begun this project and we'll be completing this project by June 30 next year. So when you come to Jeju in the second half of next year, you will be able to see this kind of convergence-based Smart Plus Hub. And this is how the energy town type is structured. As you can see, the energy produced in community town can be shared on this Grid Plus. And the subscribers, like the individuals, households, or the smart hubs that subscribe to this Grid Plus will be able to share the renewable energies here. We are currently building the service platform. We are currently in partnership with TEPCO and KPX. And all the data that comes from energy transactions would have to be analyzed, processed, and we would have to create a data set and should be integrated into a national data platform. And you have to see how much renewable energy is produced. And we also hope to see how much energy is used and conserved if we utilize these different platforms and devices. So again, the idea is to collect the data all together and share them with the government and the public sector. And next, this is a part about citizen participation. Citizens participate in their communities, either it be their small communities or large communities. And a lot of the concepts or ideas that are generated through these projects are based on the citizens' opinions. And again, citizens can actively suggest their ideas for new and emerging projects. So this was an overview of our project. We are currently developing different systems and platforms. But unfortunately, there are some policy limitations in Korea. So there are some limitations to energy applications or the secondary industries. And we believe that there are some limits to developing a viable business models. We are trying to get the exemptions from the regulatory authorities and get approval from the regulatory sandbox. But if we are to have these new concepts be applied to the real world, we would have to have more flexible implementation of the policies, because only then can people understand more about these technologies and can promote these technologies altogether. So I hope that we can all join hands to expand renewable energy industry and market. Thank you.
Thank you for your introducing the Jeju project, Mr. Ji-hyuk Kim. And thank all the presenters. And it is the discussion time. And let me introduce the first discussant, who is working for Korea Research Institute for Human Settlement, Mr. Ik-hye Kim.
First of all, Thank you for such great presentations. Well, I think I would like to introduce myself again first because you might not be familiar with our institute. Our institute is in charge of proposing policies related to the land and city. And in relation to the challenge project, we actually first conceived this idea and proposed ways for the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport to implement this project. And when we selected the local governments that will be at the center of these projects, we played an important role. And we're now in our third phase of the challenge project. In the first phase, we had 3 local projects. In the second phase, we had another 3. And in the third project, we had 4 local governments participating. We are supervising the first and the second phase, and for the third phase, another institute is in charge of it, and the project is also known as the Regional Hub Project. So we have been playing a central role in terms of the Jeju Smart City Challenge. And as a policymaking institute, when we worked on this challenge project, we thought a lot about how we can overcome the challenges that we faced. And in relation to renewable energy, Jeju Island is actually playing a central role, and also other local governments are experimenting a lot of different things, aiming for carbon neutrality. But Jeju Island has a lot of advantages when it comes to renewable energy, and through ESS, Jeju is connecting consumers with those who are generating their own energy. So it's very encouraging, and Jeju Island has been playing a very pioneering role. But still, it's very challenging. You know, the Smart City Challenge is an actual challenge. So there are a lot of challenges involved, and there are a lot of things we need to think about. So this year, there was a plan for us to complete certain things, but it was delayed. So there are lots of issues to be resolved. And I think one of those issues are the curtailment issue. So how are we going to store all the excess energy? So one of the answers is to use the ESS, but as you know, the ESS or batteries are quite costly. So how can we develop this further? That's what we are thinking about. In relation to smart cities, when I go on business trips, you know, we had a speaker from Japan, but in Japan, it seems like they are interested in hydrogen and using hydrogen to store energy. So I think it would be nice for us to adopt it. And I know you are taking this approach as well. And I know that there are discussions going on surrounding hydrogen. So now we're seeing an upgrade of smart city policies. So I think we should take new approaches. So as has been mentioned earlier, green hydrogen can also be used. And aside from smart city, we can also focus on hydrogen cities or carbon-free cities. But many different ministries are working on this, so that's why there are different terms that are being used. But the key is how we're going to make this happen. I was quite interested in the case that our Japanese speaker mentioned. So the key is how we can reduce carbon emissions. So we monitor carbon emissions and how we can make consumers to save electricity. That's also something that we should think about while we implement the Smart City project. And in relation to the hydrogen city, there's something I heard. So in Japan, they are investing in renewable energy in Australia. So they're turning that renewable energy into hydrogen and importing that into Japan. I was aware of this approach. And earlier we heard that how there's excess energy in Australia as well. So in Korea, it's a challenge, and also for Jeju Island, but I think it's a global challenge to be sure. So we need to create a global production network, maybe to address this issue. And also another interesting part about the Jeju challenge is that, as Mr. Kim Ji-hyuk has answered, you know, gas stations they were run in an old-fashioned way, so it was where energy was traded. But let's not see it as a declining industry, but transform it into a hub for renewable energy. I think this is quite meaningful. And the reason Jeju Island was chosen as a participant of the challenge project was actually because of that. And we're now just beginning. We are experimenting every means possible to experiment things, and we now have things installed. So now we are truly at the beginning. So I hope that this will contribute to Korea's institutions. And that will be the end of my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Lee Kim made a very interesting expression. According to him, challenge is challenge. It has very deep meaning. And the second discussant is Dr. In-Hwan Kim. He has been also participating in the Jeju Smart City project. Especially he is master planner, so he has been leading the project, and he also prepared several slides of PowerPoint. Let's invite Dr. In-Hwan Kim.
Hello everyone, I am Kim In-Hwan. What do you think is the commonalities between energy and IT? If you don't have them, it will feel inconvenient. What do you think is the biggest difference? Monopoly. Indeed, in the National Assembly, there has been lots of controversy regarding Netflix and also the network usage fee. And indeed, the network usage fee in the energy system is getting a lot of attention in Jeju, and we believe that this can spread to the central government level. And this will lie at the center of how we utilize the DRs. We have to utilize the existing energy infrastructures, and we would have to encourage how the value-added providers can utilize the grid infrastructure as well. I will talk about how the Smart City Challenge projects are different from the DR special zones that the Jeju City and the ministry is working together on. And I'll also talk about the business opportunities that lie in the middle. A lot of the people said that renewable energies have two characteristics. First is distribution, and second is intermittency. And I agree completely. However, we are in a very different era now, because citizens are playing a more important role. The citizens used to just be a consumer, but now they're also producers. So now the citizens are now prosumers, and that means that they are now direct stakeholders in the market. However, the market is currently dominated by KEPCO, and that is why a lot of the things are controversial. If you look at the energy-related smart city problems, we believe technology, market, and citizens-related challenges are present. And in particular, we focused on the spaces that we can utilize because we thought that it was the touch point between the citizens and the spaces. But in the process, we need to use these resources more flexibly. So I'd like to talk about curtailment. And we need to make all of that technologically possible. So in the case of B2H, P2G, or V2G, a lot of the flexible solutions are already in the market. But I believe that three characteristics are there. First is storage. Because there is an imbalance in demand and supply, storage will play a critical role. And second important part is transition. And third, we need to have a circular economy involving the waste batteries. These three characteristics are the central traits for the flexible resources, and in the Smart City challenges, we focused on storage and circular economy. So we included both the static and the mobile ESS And also, we utilize the waste batteries into the smart hubs, where the waste batteries can generate the renewable energies. Also, regarding how the citizens should take an important part, the special zone focuses on converting the existing gas stations. There are around 250 gas stations, and they are likely to decline in 3 years. And we have about 27,000 EVs. That means that by 2030, we're going to see the increase in the shares. And people would be charging their EVs not only around their homes. Each EVs need a lot of the charging stations, and Korea has a lot of the charging stations. Even so, not many people are utilizing the charging stations, and that is because the charging stations are primarily focused on suppliers, and charging stations are more concentrated on the public offices or government offices, even when the actual demand lies in the areas nearby people's homes or people's offices. So there was a mismatch between the demand and supply of the charging of EVs. But Energy Superstation, I believe, can help address this gap. Energy Superstation will be a charging station. And lastly, we need to, of course, deal with problems in the market. A lot of the B2P or P2H providers like Naver and Kakao would have to play a more critical role in the market. In Smart City Challenges, they focused on the storage, circular economy, and energy, but they need to be more linked with the industries or businesses, but there are currently a bottleneck. And let me move on to the next slide. So there are regulatory barriers. Convergence is at the heart of the technological development, because the previous keynote speaker also talked about the connectivities of different sectors. And even though technology-wise, we are seeing some developments and demonstrations, there are still a lot of regulatory barriers, especially because the market is monopoly and energy is regulated very tightly as part of the energy security. And this is really holding back the energy storage or energy superstations, and thus this is indeed a bottleneck. And we can include ESS in the energy superstation because of the regulations, but in the US, that's possible. They have ESS in shells, for example. So my suggestion is that we have to first start this in Jeju and then scale up across the country. Also, from V2G to P2H, we are seeing some technological demonstration, but there's still a lot of regulatory barriers because we have to utilize the networks of the KEPCO. However, even if the renewable energy sources themselves become cheaper, if the network usage fee is high, it could cause problems, and that is where we are now. Currently, in the National Assembly, the act on this kind of issue is pending, but they are still not moving through. And we can't wait until the act is passed, and that is why we are working with the Ministry of SMEs. And we hope to utilize the lessons that we learned from the Smart City Challenge projects and the transactions regarding P2P and the ESS stability issues. And we hope to create a business opportunities out of them, but in the process, citizens should play a crucial role. Again, citizens should accept the renewable energies and they should utilize the renewable energies more because the citizens are now the prosumers. I really hope that we can successfully end this journey. And I really hope that everyone here can join hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. In-hwan Kim. He should be a presenter instead of discussant. He delivered key ideas that penetrated into the Jeju Smart City project. And he also addressed the importance of the deregulation to strengthen the consumption of the recycled energies. Is still Mr. Tiwari on the Zoom?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes. Can I ask a question for you?
For sure.
I believe you also heard the presentation of the Mr. Shiba of Japan. According to his presentation, people in Japan didn't want to change their behavior, even though they are given some economic incentives to induce the more use of renewable energies. How about the case of the Australia and in India? Are people responding positively to such some economic incentives to enhance the consumption of renewable energies?
Thank you for the question. They're responding very much so. In fact, as we speak, Australia is facing with the problem of too much reverse flows of energy because there is an extremely high penetration of rooftop solar across the residential customers in Australia. Not just residential, also commercial and industrial. Close to 30% of residential rooftop already has solar. So during daytime, I'm in Perth, the grid's struggling with minimum demand issue because majority of the load is self-supplied by Renewable, which is already installed on site. And it's getting to the level where even the system security is starting to become a problem because your large baseload power stations, which provide thermal inertia, struggling to stay on because the market competing prices are not there. Prices are going in negative in the wholesale market. So consumer empowerment is, and not just Osaka Gas, our friends from Osaka Gas, but also from Jeju Island. And I was listening with a lot of intent what you're trying to do in Korea and the demonstration that is through Smart City project in Jeju Island. And congratulations on what you're achieving there. To me, the initial incentives that were provided in Australia really triggered the growth of rooftop solar. And no incentives required now. Community has really lapped it on, and people are already installing rooftop solar without any premium feed-in tariffs. So there is they find solar as the cheaper, cleaner source of energy, and that's why they install it. The grid has to now make provision or firstly understand that what it is doing is creating a two-sided energy system. And the market, the wholesale market still only recognize, large generators as the suppliers. And all the regulations are created for the large wholesale market clearing mechanism only. So what is required is a two-sided marketplace where empowered consumers, distributed renewable assets can start to be part of the solution because it is also fast-tracking decarbonization as well. Different scenario in India, they are using or they're looking at alternatives to accelerate their distributed renewable portfolio. They also have, like most countries in the world, huge renewable energy targets. And those targets cannot only be met with large solar or large wind or large geothermal type of project. They will have to be distributed renewable as key part of the solution. So how do you firstly incentivize communities to get on with solar and distributed renewable in general without having to give subsidies. So power ledger type of peer-to-peer enabled marketplaces where consumer can share, trade, gift, donate their excess energy, or preferentially trade with who they want to. Also create loyalty programs with businesses they want to support. All of those things become incentives for acceleration of rooftop solar deployment. So emerging markets are utilizing new technologies to accelerate more distributed renewable. The markets which have already, like Australia, which have already got high penetration of rooftop solar, they are utilizing platform and technologies like ours to orderly integrate this distributed renewable on the grid, including bringing community batteries and behind the meter residential commercial batteries that can play a role in creating these local energy markets where all the excess energy produced can be used downstream to a substation, downstream to a feeder and transformer, so that the reverse flows can be reduced and grid can progress to decarbonization pathway in an accelerated way. I'll pause now, and if there are any follow-ups, happy to take them.
Thank you. And although we have time limitation, I want to raise a question for the Mr. Shiba. Mr. Shiba, I really enjoyed your interest in the project, the Housing Next 21. But interestingly, I remember that Japanese people didn't want to change their behavior. And what kind of alternatives can we make to induce people to save more energies and to use more recyclable energies? Can you give us a tip?
ネクスト21のプレゼンテーションありがとうございました。人々の行動様式を変えることによって、省エネをさせたり、またはリサイクルができるエネルギー資源をそちらの方に使用転換していこうという動きが見えてきまして、非常に面白かったんですけれども、これをもう少し加速させるためには、どういったことをすればもう少し一生懸命になってくれる、そういう面でお考えになると何ができるでしょう？
まあ、みんなが、馴染みのあるツールとかアプリとかで、常に見えるようにしておくということが大事だと思います。
Okay, one thing I can say is that to introduce the tools or app or application that can really give transparency on the use of energy, and that would work, and make it visible.
Thank you. Yeah, we really enjoyed the session too, and I really want to express my deepest thanks to all the presenters and discussants. I want to give the mic to the Professor Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Young-Sung Lee, and also panelists and speakers for the session number 2. This marks the end of our afternoon session and also of our forum today. Now, we are going to wrap up this 8th GSI International Forum with the Director Son's closing remarks. Director Son is a professor in the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering at KAIST, and specializing in smart structures and systems. And Professor Son took office as the Director of Global Strategy Institute, GSI, on March of 2021. And since then, his excellent leadership has helped make the Institute one of the leading think tanks in Korea. Please welcome the Director Son with a round of applause.
Thank you, Professor Ji-young, for a very nice introduction. And again, my name is Hoon Son. I'm the director of KAIST, Global Strategic Institute. GSI is a think tank representing KAIST, and it was established in 2020. And we aim to provide insights in global and then national issues especially through our expertise in science and technology. And as part of these efforts, we are organizing this kind of international forums every year on different topics. And this is our 8th international forum on renewable energy integration challenges and technology and policy innovations. We try to organize our forums in English so we can finish the forum on time. Otherwise, if we speak in Korean, a lot of time, we cannot, stay on time. I'm just joking, so it's time to laugh. Okay. So anyway, actually, personally, it was very good learning opportunity for me. And personally, I'm doing research in quality assessment and control during manufacturing of electronic car batteries. So now I can better position my own research with respect to a bigger picture of renewable energies and carbon neutralization. Okay? So having said that, I like to acknowledge contributors of this forum. So first, I like to acknowledge KAI's president, Lee Kwang-hyung, for his nice welcome speech. And also I like to thank Minister Won Hee-ryong at Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, and Transport. And also co-chairperson Kim Sang-hyuk for Korean Presidential Commission on Carbon Neutrality and Green Growth, and also Jeju Province Governor Oh Young-hoon. Okay, and also I like to thank our keynote speakers, such as Professor Mark Jacobson at Stanford University, and also senior specialist Russell Conklin at U.S. Department of Energy, and also chairperson Koo Ja-gyun at LS Electronics. And also I like to thank all the presenters and panelists and moderators for the following 2 sessions. And I apologize that because of time limitation, I cannot name everybody. And also last but not the least, I like to thank Professor Ji-young, and then General Manager Chu Sang-min, and then Dr. Cho Sung-hoon, and all the staff members at GSI for their endless efforts who made this international forum possible. So with all that, I'd like to thank everybody, and now the session is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Son, and thank you all watching this forum offline or live online this afternoon or morning. This concludes the 8th GSI International Forum, and I will see you all in the next forum. Thank you so much.